This evening, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public announcements and upcoming meetings. Announcements. Oh, I should remind everybody that
Turn off their
the,
phones.
whose phone is that?
It's yours, isn't it?
No. I will turn mine off, though. Okay. We'll announce that the school committee is here and they have, they're here in force and they have a post meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Announcements. Somebody. Hanson Business Network will meet on Wednesday, April 6th at 7 p.m. in the offices of Coletta and Cutler, located at 620 County Road, Hanson, Massachusetts. This meeting will be a networking event. Please RSVP to Laura Fitzgerald Kemet at lfitzkemet@gmail.com if you are interested in joining the HBN or have any questions. The town clerk's office will be closed on Friday, April 8th. A meat raffle will be held at Damien's Pub, 279 Spring Street, on Saturday, April 9th at 2 p.m. All proceeds will benefit the class of 2016 through the Whitman Hanson Dollars for Scholars. John Russell Studios at 587 Washington Street, Whitman, will host a cut-a-thon on Sunday, April 10th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. All proceeds to benefit the Whitman Hanson Dollars for Scholars 2016 Scholarship Fund. Walk-in welcome or call for an appointment at 781-447-1100. Whitman Hanson will be hosting a presentation of If Only I Knew by Kathy Meyer on Monday, April 11th at 6:30 p.m. at the Whitman Hanson Regional High School Performing Arts Center. The presentation is to bring awareness and education in an attempt to curb young people from making destructive decisions. For more information, go to whitmanhansonwill.org. There will be a special voter registration session on Tuesday, April 12th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Town Hall. This is the last day to register to vote in the May 21st town election. Citizens may register to vote at the town clerk's office during regular business hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 noon, or by mail-in registration. Residents who will be 18 years of age at May 2nd are eligible to register by April 12th. On April 13, 2016, the Hanson Community Preservation Committee, CPC, will be holding its annual public open forum meeting at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Hanson Town Hall. We will be highlighting some of the projects that the Hanson Community Preservation Act, CPA money, funded in 2015, and discussing the CPC master plan that we will be drafting in 2016. Please email us at cpchanson@gmail.com or visit our website at www.hansоncommunitypreservation.org. The fourth annual Epic Youth Battle of the Bands being held April 15th at 6:30 p.m. in Whitman Hanson Regional High School Performing Arts Center. Tickets are $10 each and will be sold at the door. If you are interested in participating in this event, please visit our website at www.panthereducationtrust.org or application, please contact lfitzkemet@gmail.com with any questions. The Recreation Commission will be holding the annual Camp Kewanee Cleanup Day on Saturday, April 16, 2016, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Volunteers are welcome. For more information, please call Nicole at 781-293-2333. Upcoming meetings, Highway Building Committee, Wednesday, April 6th, 5 p.m., Highway Office. Indian Head McQuon Repair Priority Committee, Thursday, April 7th, 7 p.m. Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, April 19th at 7 p.m. And Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, April 26th at 7 p.m. And that includes our announcements and notices of upcoming meetings. And that brings us to our Town Administrator's report. And for that, I will turn to Mr. LaCamera.
The only thing I'd like to mention, Mr. Chairman, is that the RFP that went out for the radio tower, we did not get any responses.
Okay, not one response?
No.
Okay. And that's it?
All right, well, we're gonna talk about budgets later.
Right now, we're going to talk about, we're going to have a brief discussion on the options and possible vote to place a Prop 2.5 override article and question on the warrant and ballot for the school operating budget. There was some discussion last week as to what the options were of the boards of selectmen regarding the placing of an override ballot for a ballot question on a town election ballot. We had a conference call with myself present. Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner was in on the conference call, along with Christine, and I'm not sure who else was on the conference call. But our attorney, Jay Talaman, as well as an attorney for the Whitman Hanson Regional School Committee to discuss that. Jay, would you like to talk about what the results of that conference were as far as the options?
Well, it was a really good call. Rich was on it as well, and what we talked about was just kind of frame the various options that the school had and talk about just general concerns and how we can be all on the same page and provide room to advocate for the best possible alternative. We felt we needed to dispel certain various options that might be available for other types of overrides, because this is a school operating override. So we kind of narrowed the scope of what you all can talk about and discuss in terms of whether it's a single number or a few different numbers, but we were careful to exclude, even though there's some somewhat conflicting advice from the state, but we felt it best legally to exclude the notion of a menu or a la carte override that we could do for a general municipal override, because the town meeting can only make decisions with respect to the bottom line of the school's operating budget. So all of the options were constrained to that reality. It was a good discussion. You know, we talked about a lot of different factors. And then the rest of it is where the board wants to go, and I'm happy to answer questions. I know you've worked really hard on reading up on the materials, and I'm happy to frame that debate as we go forward tonight.
Okay. With those in mind, I tried to frame some sample questions for the board, depending on how the board wants to handle this, and this would be by a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen. Debt exclusions, on the other hand, would have taken a 2/3 vote of the Board of Selectmen, as in the example of 2 years ago, but this being an override only requires a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen to put it on the ballot. The first thing I would say that the selectmen have options to put it in as a lump sum override question for the full amount. They also have an option of not approving the override at all, and they also have an option of approving a lesser amount than the $1,241,000 for the ballot question. There are several types of ballot questions. I gave you a sample of one. And I'll start with that. That would be the tiered override, as you see at the top. And I gave an example. This is not necessarily, if the board chooses to go with this, how this is going to read, because you have other options as depending on what you would want a tiered override to look like. And that would be option, example number 1A that says, shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional, or would be the exact amount? What was the exact amount, Rich?
1,241,141.
$1,241,141 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of operating the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016. And that would be, all of these would be yes and no questions, and you'd be given the opportunity to answer yes and no on each one of them. 1B, shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional $1 million in real estate personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the operating budget for Whitman-Hanson for the school year beginning 2016. And then descending order 1C would be the same wording for $800,000, and then down to 1D, which would be $400,000, whatever the board's liking would be. Or you could have a question, for example, example number 2, shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional $1,241,141 in real estate personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the total operating budget of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016, also with a yes and no question. And there's one other one, and Jay can comment on this one. I put this one in because I felt it would add some transparency to the purpose of the additional override amounts, and outlines all of the reasons for the total district $3 million override, the $1,241,141 share in Hanson. And that example that I put was, shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional $1,241,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of operating the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District and funding the, which is detailed in the budget as instructional staff, 8 positions, library position, 5 library positions, 2 social workers, 2 reading specialists, 2 math specialists, 2 foreign language instructors, 1 foreign language program coordinator, 1 art teacher, 1 music teacher, 1 wellness instructor, 1 fine arts instructor, 1 music director, and full-time no-cost kindergarten program, professional development improvements, safety and security resources, 1 safety and security position, 3 duty aides, and 1 data specialist for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016. Example 3 covers the same example as question 2, only it outlines the reasons why the override was necessary, and all of those educational considerations that were given as part of the most educationally sound, the education success budget, student success budget. And that was the reason I worded example 3. So I'll let Jay comment on those.
Yeah, I have some concerns about that one. I actually think that one cuts against transparency a little bit, even though, and perhaps the discussion of all those items is appropriate for town meeting, which actually appropriates the money. The purpose of the ballot question isn't to appropriate anything, it's just to increase your levy limit.
Yep.
And because if this was, the confusing thing is that the state guidelines on Proposition 2.5 gives a very similar example to this in a school context. But Attorney Toomey and I are in agreement that you can't confine the school's line items in their budget. So the fact that these are listed and a voter may go and think, hey, this is what I'm voting on, when the school, I'm not saying that they would, but they can adjust this because it's really only their bottom line. It's a good illustration and good promotional material or explanatory material, but they're not bound by this. They're only bound by the bottom line of the 1.241, and however they choose to divvy it up, and it may be exactly for these purposes.
Right.
They're not bound, so I'm not sure if it's a great idea. I think there could be a legal question, although again, the state uses the same example. But more than that, I think it maybe gives the wrong impression, and I'm not suggesting the school is hiding the ball or anything like that, but if the situation changes or their demands change for any particular reason, it could end up being 7 positions for instructional staff and 6 library positions. Who knows, depending upon their needs at the time when they're actually budgeting and they're looking at their manpower needs. So I think there can be some danger there. Now, there may be an opportunity below the ballot question to provide some explanatory material,
Yeah.
subject to the restrictions of the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. But I'm concerned, and I think Attorney Toomey is concerned as well, as putting it in the ballot question itself. I think there's plenty of opportunities to educate the public as to what the school is promoting for this override. But in the ballot question itself, I would rather have you stick to one of the first 2 types of models.
So
I mean,
if
the
you
second model is the one we see
Yeah.
the most, obviously, 'cause it's
So
specific.
if you could, it might be able to be informational rather than part of the question. but that-
Provided that it in no way, shape, or form could take on the cast of advocacy.
Yeah.
It has to be very neutral in nature, and I think that's something that we'd have to probably work on that language with Office of Campaign Political Finance, make sure that it's okay, and, and I want to make sure that the school's comfortable with it as well. I don't know, this right now is their student success budget items, but again, I think
Yeah.
that's flexible, and the way the budgeting works for schools is that it's intended to be flexible.
Yeah. So we'd have to check with them and see if they were okay with it for informational purposes rather than a,
Well, again,
Actual
I'm
ballot
somewhat
question
uncomfortable with it, even it being in the ballot. And,
Right.
So the question I think would be is just below, if you, for explanatory purposes, you could see, as suggested by the school committee, this would be for funding,
I see.
potentially funding the following
Yeah.
items, or items to potentially include. I just don't wanna, I don't
Just
wanna
like
give the.
transparency, because I like to try to give the voters as much information as
Me
possible
too,
without
but-
violating the law, so,
But if you get someone who's a huge library buff
yeah.
and sees 5 new positions, and that's the reason they vote for it, and it turns out that they can meet their library needs in another way and decide to beef up some other part of their curriculum, they can do that. And so that.
Jay, they can do that with or without the without the information, right?
They can, because it's their bottom line.
Right,
Um,
my point is just that, though, so
Right.
it doesn't matter, really, right?
Right, well, it matters to the guy that shows up at the voting booth, or the gal that shows up at the voting booth and thinks that they're voting on 5 library positions when it may be 6, or maybe 4, or maybe none. That's why it matters.
Yeah. I put that there only because it was pretty firm as to where the school committee wanted to put that $3 million in all
I just,
of those different positions and everything, so
and again, the confusing thing is the state uses exactly this example,
I know they do.
but we know from other laws that we can't touch that bottom line. So I think transparency actually dictates saying less in the ballot question itself, and having that robust discussion on town meeting floor, which is a more appropriate place to have it, even though town meeting can't say
Mhm.
what the bottom line will be. They could have debate about it. There's no opportunity for debate at the ballot box.
So when you get to the, maybe I shouldn't go there yet, but when you get to the article at town meeting, would that be the place where you could have the information within the article itself? That wouldn't be a problem, right?
No, that is a
Well,
problem.
yes and no. I mean, again, you can't confine, you can't divvy up line items. You can
No, there
certainly
wouldn't be,
list.
I'm talking about the article, not the line item, which is like gonna be 3.5% above last year's. I'm talking about the contingency appropriation article that asked for the 1,241,000. So if you had because we normally put an explanation under each article that's really not part of the article itself or part of the motion,
Mhm.
but it would explain this,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So that would be
Yep.
an alternative.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought maybe they couldn't use it because it might set some sort of legal contract, so to speak.
Well, I think that, my concern, Jim, is that.
You understand what I'm saying?
Is that a voter may say,
Yes.
hey, I voted only for this, and now, whoa, lo and behold, it changed a little bit. And
Right.
Sure.
so that's why I get a little concerned about it. And again, the law is built this way, the bottom line for the for school budgets, to make sure that schools have flexibility during kind of an ever-changing school year where they have
Exactly.
different needs and
Yeah.
can move. That's why it's this way. It's not punitive to town people, it's
Yeah.
to make sure that schools have their needed
And it's
flexibility.
funny because that applies both to public schools as, if you read the law, it applies.
It's
but
regional and
regional and public-
non-regional
non-regional
schools
schools, yeah.
have the same situation applies, that's correct.
So, does the board have any further discussion on this before I look for?
I do want to add one thing
Yeah.
in terms of what the pyramid override, the varying
First one?
amounts.
Yes.
Number one, there's, some of this language has to be cleaned up, but the state does recommend right below that an explanatory phrase that the highest amount
Yes.
that is voted yes for will be the operative one. So if people check all the boxes, it's not cumulative, it's the highest amount
Yes,
that
the
that
highest
comes
amount.
in.
So if
And-
question one, won by one vote.
And the state recommends that we actually put below the yes or no, that clarifying comment if you want to go there. I mean, we don't see a lot of pyramid overrides. There are examples out there, but it is a device that the state makes available to you all.
One thing too, Jay,
Yeah.
on that point, right? So let's say we did go with the pyramid approach, and I go in and I vote, and I only vote for one item and not the others, right?
That's your option.
That's my option, right?
Your option.
So potentially, you could be taking away from something else by not voting for it, correct? Yes, you could.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with pyramid overrides, take it for what it's worth, is it doesn't usually work out the way you think it may work out. There are a lot of unintended consequences. The no votes tend to pile up pretty quickly. Just the way it's structured, it's kind of splitting the vote. Look, if you have three candidates, in a way, it's not the same thing because there's yeses and nos next to each, but
A pyramid override, you know.
there's a lot of uncertainty.
There's a lot of uncertainty to it, because if you go in and you don't vote for each one of those parts of the question, right, then you certainly could be getting the override, even though you may intend to vote against it.
Or
Or
vice
the other, or the
versa.
vice versa, right?
Right, absolutely. You know, as we said during the conference call, it makes a lot of sense to get everyone on the same page and everyone be supporting the same thing. These are complex processes, overrides are not popular ever. It just so happens, and we were talking earlier, that there happens to be a lot around the state this year, maybe from some pent-up financial distress since the downturn around 2007. But it's tough territory. So I always think it makes sense to work towards the same result, and I'm not trying to dominate the discussion at all. If possible, have everyone supporting exactly the same thing. That said, giving options is not altogether a bad idea either, and really it's a policy question for this board as to where you want to go.
Jay, I had one question for you, which is confusing to me. When does an override not have to have a contingency article on town meeting floor? Because contingency article seems to be an option rather than a mandate. So what are the types of overrides that wouldn't need a,
If you pass a budget
Yeah.
that's beyond the levy limit, you can't go beyond the levy limit.
Right.
So, for example, I had a situation in a town that had a regional school budget, and because of amendments on the floor, they passed a budget non-contingent, and they tried to make it contingent. They passed it non-contingent. Couldn't touch the school line item, so they ended up, and then they put on an override thing, and it failed, so the town had to just start making cuts from elsewhere.
oh, I see.
So you don't have to make it contingent, but if you don't, you're gonna have to find the money somewhere if an override fails, or you get an
That's-
override for the
right,
whole
That's the
thing.
answer I was looking for,
Right.
right, yeah.
Yeah. It's very rare in this day and age do we see non-contingent overrides.
Mhm.
It happens, but it's almost always contingency.
The rule rather than the exception.
Yes, again, as Jim mentioned, the less uncertainty, the better. The easier it is to sell it, the easier it is for everyone to be on the same page.
Bruce,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that this board supports the override question for the ballot, and for the question to read as follows. Shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional $1,241,000
and real estate tax and personal property tax for the purposes of funding the operating budget for Whitman Hanson Regional School District for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think we
Looking
got
for
to
a
change the
second.
wording of that, Jay, because it has to, having to do with the chapter and the section.
Yeah, I mean, subject, if I could offer a friendly amendment, subject to reasonable amendments to conform to the law.
Subject to reasonable amendments. I'm looking for a second.
Kenny, I'm gonna hold off on that, and I'll tell you why.
You want to second
Because-
it for the point of discussion?
I want to second it. I'll tell you what, we'll second it, I'll second it. For point of discussion, Kenny, okay? Before we move to vote. Go ahead, did you want to talk first? Kenny, did you want to talk first?
No, good.
Okay, first of all, I got the breakdown for what we want, what the additional teachers are. I figured you guys might know that, I'm not sure if everybody knows it. But the class size reduction, there's 8 teachers coming in, 2 at McQuon, 1 at Indian Head, 4 at Conley, 1 at Duval.
You mean increases?
Increases for the 8 teachers, okay? I think that's terrific. Elementary, library, 1 at McQuon, 1 at Indian Head, 1 at Hanson Middle School, 1 at Conley, 1 at Duval, okay? Library, middle school, it just says library middle, oh, I'm sorry, that was elementary, but they grouped it up at top, so those are the 5 places. Reading specialist, 1 at Hanson, 1 at Whitman. Math specialist, 1 at Hanson, 1 at Whitman, as it was stated. Foreign language, 1 at Hanson, 1 at Whitman. Social workers, 1 at Hanson, 1 at Whitman. I thought the art, music, and wellness distributed equitably throughout 4 elementary schools per contract and timeline on learning. And then below, there's a chart, which is, looks like a pretty complex formula on how it's figured out, so. Thank you, Ruth and Bob, for this. I appreciate this, okay? I do want to make a point and question on the district security cameras and so forth. Obviously, it wouldn't be worth our while to maybe upgrade those, even though we have cameras and security, right? Doors are locked at McQuon, since that's probably, we're not going to be going that direction in future, right? It makes sense that money wouldn't be spent toward that area, I'm guessing. If we're gonna tear the building down in 5 years, we don't wanna do an upgrade to the system, right? Maybe we do, I don't know. We'll think about it later, but that's just my comment. There's a lot of pressure here tonight for us to vote it one way, as Kenny just put it to us, okay? But I think if you really wanted to look at this, and I know, I'll tell you what, let's do this. You just get a raise of hands. How many feel that Kenny's way of putting one question out there, yes or no, is the way to go? No. No? Okay, let me tell you, I'm sorry, who said no? Who said no with, everybody? I said no. Good, okay, good, okay. So you don't understand that if you go the pyramid approach, right, that there's a good chance you might get the 1.2 million. Do you understand what we said earlier, what Jay and I were saying earlier, right? If you walk in there and vote yes for 400,000 and don't vote for the other 3, that vote goes to just that one item, right? Doesn't go to the other items. Right? So if a person's gonna go in there and vote on the pyramid approach, they should vote for all of them.
Well, that's their option. That's what it says at
That's
the
what
top.
that's what it'll say at the top, but there's a good possibility that they may not, which would ensure that you'd get it, right? Yeah, that's a possibility.
Not
It's
necessarily.
also, not necessarily, it might go the other way too, if they vote all the questions, but still, it's something to think about.
I don't follow you.
Okay, if you walk in and vote, if you got the chair approach, you've got 1.2, 1 million, 800,000, and 400,000, right? And each one is yes, no. Just like this, right? And you go out and you vote for this one, and you say, yeah, I want the lower amount. Because what I'm hearing from a lot of people is, if you give people the option of lower amount, they're gonna choose lower amount, right? Okay, but based on that logic, if you give them yes or no vote on 1.2 million, then probably they're gonna vote no, right? If your logic is that they're always gonna vote for the lower amount, or if you put in front of them yes or no, they're probably gonna vote for no. Would that be agreeable to everybody?
Wouldn't they vote no on the first three?
Hold on for a second. My point is that if your logic is that people will naturally vote for the lowest one, then if you put all or nothing in front of them, 1.2 yes or no, right, they're gonna vote no. The logic says, yeah, that they probably would vote, if they're gonna go with the lowest amount, and the lowest amount is nothing, then that's what they're gonna vote for. Okay, hold on for there, right? I wanna get to some of the comments that were made, that I'm seeing from some of the people out here.
Mr. Chairman?
I've got, here we go. Mr. Young agrees that a lot of people. This is wrong. Hold on for a second. Mr. Young, although he agrees that a lot of people were involved in the creation of the Student Success Plan, believes it is now up to the Board of Selectmen to recreate the budget for the Hanson voters. That's complete false, right? Continues to walk through gray areas to regional schools without absolute certainty or legality. Of course, prior to this post, I know for a fact Mr. Young was going back and forth with legal. When pressed to commit a meeting with town and school lawyers, his response was laughter. All right, it was a joke, but it was a bad joke, but fine. Mr. McGann expressed supporting full-day kindergarten, but did not believe that safety and security were part of student success. Really? Hold on for a second. Let me finish, because I haven't finished yet. I went to that, and I read, and I saw that meeting, 1.2, and I said specifically that I felt it was more of a capital item. I never said that safety and security were not part of student success. Mr. Scott feels that maybe it's too much to ask parents to support primary education because someday they might have to pay for college. This type of behavior, this type of comments, I'm reading in the paper exactly what was said, doesn't matter, right? I'm getting texts and posts on New Year's Eve night that they're throwing Mr. Young out of the SOS group because of whatever. I understand that was taken care of, and I thank you, okay? You gotta stop this. There was one quote in there that I do agree with that we need to make sure of, is that if we are supposed to trust our school committee members, which I agree to, and I agree that if we give you the $3 million, you're gonna spend it where it's gonna go, all right? Then you have to also trust us, okay? That's what I'm saying here for myself.
Okay. I'll take a few, I'll start with Mr. Hayes, because he's the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Mr. McGann. I don't think that those comments reflect every single person in this room. I think those were comments that were made, Jim. I don't think that there's anyone on the school committee, and I can't speak for all of the members, or any of the citizens in the town that don't trust every single person in this room. The school committee's job is to advocate for education for children. That's their job. Sometimes it gets very, very difficult and personal opinions get involved, and we could probably say the same comments. I'd stay off Facebook for that very reason, but we probably could say the same comments about the school committee. Their job just is to advocate for children. The citizens of the town don't know the system's broke if we don't come forward and tell them what we do, whether it be security cameras or whether it be librarians or whatever. So that's the school committee's job. And I don't think just like your job is to do the different things in the town services, that no one should be committing,
Bob,
getting over on you guys.
would you agree that, in addition to what your job is, which I agree with what you're saying, but our job here is to do kind of your job and the town's business as well? To make sure that, hold on for a second, hold on for a second, I care about what goes on in the school committee. I have the right to care about what goes on. I've got 3 kids going to the school too, just like anybody else. As a citizen. Right? As a citizen, absolutely right. But also as a Board of Selectmen to make sure that our kids are taken care of in our schools. Go ahead.
Okay, I was getting to that, Jim, anyway. So what I'm saying is the committee is here for a reason, and a lot of people let it get personal and those type of arguments. We should all have a little bit thicker skin. We're all doing the very best, whether it's the Board of Selectmen, and I know you guys are all volunteers, or whether it's the school committee. We come forward to do the best, and ultimately, let the people in the towns vote whether they want to fund or they don't want to fund. There's a reason the legislature or whoever set up these rules made the appropriating authority a town meeting, and then ultimately the voice of the town at a ballot. There's a reason for that. So you 5, and the 10 school committee members come with the best, with a leadership team that Ruth provides with it, for us with the superintendents. They come and they give us the best decision that they think we need for a sound, successful education, for a 21st century education for the schools. And it's to be voted on. And I know there's a lot of passion in this room. I know there is, whether it's for or against. There always is, and that's what democracy is about. That's the best part about democracy, is we all have that vote. And I think that's kind of what the people are getting to. You know, it gets a little bit, I know what you're saying, Jim, you and I have had these conversations on the phone at 10:30 at night, more than once. The social media stuff gets a little crazy and it drives us all crazy. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think there's one person in this room that has any doubt that you five are trying to do the very best educated decision that you have for the whole town. And I don't think there's one person in this room, if you go to the heart of hearts, that thinks the school committee isn't trying to make the best educated decision to send it to the people. And it's just, that's why we're here. That's why everybody's here from both sides. There's passion. And I love it. It's called democracy.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank them all for coming. And I thank the five of you for doing your job. I really do. I thank you because it's what makes democracy great. It's what makes people free. People are free because of this democracy. So, thank you for what you do.
Do you all know how you're gonna vote on this? Everybody made up their mind? You made up your mind?
I'd like to say something. It might take a few minutes. I've been here since 1948. It's a long time. I'm probably one of the oldest ones right here on the board. But I built my house in 1960 in Winter Street. I was 23 years old. Claire and I had 3 children. They all went through the school system. But prior to that, I graduated from the Indian Head School. I was only in it, I think it was 4 months. Because prior to that, the graduation was held on the front doorstep of the L.Z. Thomas School. And it was the first year in 1952 that Hanson children graduated undercover in the Memorial Hall. And I built my house in 1960, so that's only 8 years after I graduated from Indian Head School. And I've been paying taxes in Hanson ever since. So that anything that's gone on or been built since 1960, Claire and I have paid taxes to the town of Hanson for the schools, for the renovation of the town hall, the middle school, McQuon School, everything built, the fire station, police station, everything. I feel as an adult that I'm responsible for the children in town of Hanson. In other words, they're born, and we adults in Hanson are responsible for them until they're 18 years old. So that we have these different committees in town that try to do the best we can for the town. And all the money I've spent, I'm glad I spent it. There's 3 children that have gone through the system. I have 6 grandchildren that are, there's 1 graduating this year, and in 2 years another one. So that I'll have 6 grandchildren that have graduated from Whitman Hanson. All my brothers graduated from Whitman Hanson. So I can't see, we have to think of it, there's a lot of people in town that they don't want to pay for the schools, and I understand that, because the tax burden in this town is getting quite high. It really is. And we have to keep up in times, but upgrade all the systems that we have in town, not only the schools, but the police, the fire, and everything else involved. And I go along with it personally. I'm paying my taxes. I think it's a great town. It's a bedroom community. We don't have any business or industry that we can accumulate any money from. And you, the taxpayers, are the ones that are paying for everything in this town of Hanson. And I just wanted to let you know that, just one person up here sitting. So I believe in doing everything for the children. I really do. Because they're the people that are going to be taking care of everything as years to come, so, thank you.
I'll just make one statement before we go to the vote. I'm not gonna vote for this because I believe people should have a choice. I represent all the people in Hanson. I support education in the town of Hanson, but I like to go with the choice, and I like to go with the choice of what people think that they're willing to give back to the school system. So that's the only reason I'm voting for this. Not voting for it, because I would prefer the tiered approach.
Which is example one.
Yeah, example one. But we can move to the vote on this. We have a motion and a second.
Oh, I should talk, the other people want to talk about it out here, they're
Well-
saying.
I'll allow a couple of comments before we go to the vote. Yes, Mr. McSweeney?
Terry McSweeney, 745 Winter Street.
Yes.
Jim, with respect to your second comment, I'd like to think that we can all behave like civilized adults.
Hopefully, Terry, I really do.
With respect
You
to your
should see the
first
text
comment,
messages I get.
you should see the text messages I got. Unfortunately, it's a privilege of the position we've all been through way too many times.
Absolutely.
I'd like to think we can all do better.
But some people just have no restraint, Terry, you know?
I'm aware of that, believe me. With respect to your first comment and Mr. Young's last statement, I would only like to point out that the board's own legal representation pointed out that the pyramid type of approach that you're talking about often results in unintended consequences. Your own legal representation is telling you not to do it, and you're going to do it anyway. I find that puzzling. Thank you.
What were the consequences you're talking about, Jay?
Well, first of all, I did not advise you not to do it. All I'm saying is that if your reasoning is to just give choices, as you suggested, Bruce, then that is a good reason to go with a tiered position. If you have a concern that it, for example, just giving an example, someone feels that 1.2 is too much on the board and wants to make it tiered for that, it doesn't often work out like that. Just the way the votes get collected, as Jim said, it's not altogether the most clear process that it could be. So if someone has a thought as to which number they want, and that's why they're offering their choices, it doesn't necessarily work out that way. It is a legitimate way to go, and your motivations for it are certainly sound. If it's an altruistic effort to give the most amount of choices possible, then I value its altruism. I also value Don's and Ken's point as well, for simplicity purposes. I'm not a policymaker, and I don't have a recommendation one way or the other. I just want the board to understand that very often with a tiered approach, what people may think they're getting going in is not necessarily what they're going to get on the other end of it.
Hence my statement about unintended consequences.
Well, I don't accept that, actually. Yes, Laura?
Yeah, I had a question. So if we play this out and the board votes for the pyramid, when I'm
We have
trying
a
to
motion on the floor for the, for not.
No, I understand, I
I'm
understand.
just- I'm just stating why I'm not voting for
But if the
it.
pyramid goes forward, what happens if, let's say we vote lower than the 1.24, okay? I'm making this number up, but let's say the vote is 800,000.
Yep.
Whitman is gonna have a different question. And let's say that they decide they're going to vote the full amount.
Yep.
Can you walk me through what happens?
Exactly what's happened in other circumstances where one town votes one way and one town votes for another. It goes back to the school committee, and the school committee has to decide within 30 days how they're gonna handle the situation. They can go back with the same request, they could come back with a lower request. And whatever happens after that, if that fails too, then eventually you end up with a super town meeting. But that's happened before. That's happened many times where Hanson votes one way and Whitman votes another. So it's nothing new to this particular district, okay?
No, it isn't new, but it's almost assured to happen if we go to the pyramid and they
Not
go with the
necessarily.
dollar
Not
amount.
ne- I mean, that's why you have the SOS group, that's why you have the school, to promote the 1,241,000. My experience with overrides is this, okay? You have a certain number of people who are gonna vote for an override, whether it was $1 or $2 million, because they just don't like the concept of overrides. They're gonna vote no. There's other people that are that love overrides, especially for the schools, And whether it's $1 million or $2 million, they're gonna vote for it. And the gray area lies in between, all right? And those are the people you have to convince to vote for the 1,241,000, you know? And all I'm asking, all I'm in favor of giving is people a choice, so it isn't an all or nothing. So if there's some people that don't want to vote for the 1,200,000, but feel they can afford the 400,000, or they like the concept of full-time kindergarten, but they don't like all the other concepts, and they know that's 400,000, they'll vote for the 400,000. So I don't see the harm in giving people a choice. Since when is it a bad thing to give people a choice? That's all I'm saying.
I'm not opining one way or the other, I'm just.
No, you want to know I think that's a great question, because I asked it from Rich on this too, and you're right, Laura. The school, I think one option, I think you forgot to mention, Bruce, is that the school committee could opt to take it too, right?
What's that?
Take the lower amount.
They could.
I didn't hear you mention that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they could. They have before. But, you know, I mean, this is just a fact of life. You know what I mean? It's happened before. It's nothing new. One more question, we're gonna go to the vote. Yes.
We've done pyramid questions before. They've always gone down. I've been doing overrides and involved in overrides since 1976. It was actually 82 that 2.5 started, but they have all gone down. One time we included the fire department and a couple other things with the school.
Those are separate question overrides. That's a tiered override for one particular department. You're thinking of a multiple question override rather than a tiered override. I don't recall us ever doing a tiered override before for one
Well,
department.
not for the same thing, we did it for different.
Yes, those are separate questions. That's a separate question override.
Take a couple more questions.
John?
I have a couple comments and questions. First, the question I have is, you said we've never done this before, why now? Second, is this gonna be the new norm for anything that comes in front of town residents from now on? Will it always be a tiered approach to make sure we know what we're voting? Well, hold on, I'm asking the question because you're opening up a new arena.
I'm opening up
for
nothing.
discussion. You are, Bruce, because you just said you've never done this before, but now for this one, it's okay to have
All right.
residents take a choice. Hold on, Bruce,
Do you
please.
want me to answer your
I don't need
question?
a book thrown at me, hold on, relax. The next comment, I have a real serious issue with is you just said, and I thought Jim was very eloquent, and the way he articulated, we trusted the selectmen, you were elected officials to do your role. We elected the school committee as well, they're elected officials to do their role.
Yes.
And my understanding is, why don't you trust what they're saying?
I trust
That's my
what
question.
I trust what the school committee's saying.
And just throw the amount of money on the ballot.
Hold on for a
The
second.
school
hold on.
committee, we are. It's part of the tier. That's question,
Something that we've never done before.
that's 1A. Listen, let me explain something to you. The only reason no board has ever done a tiered override before,
No, it can't.
they've never done a tiered override, because this is the first time it's ever been explained to them that they had the option of a tiered override. There's no, I'm telling you for a fact. I'm telling you, they never knew what their options were before.
Attorney is also mentioned as not
They never knew they had a tiered override. It's absolutely true.
Gotta move to the vote.
We're moving to the vote.
Done 40 minutes.
God's sakes.
Hold on for a second. Hold on.
No, wait, this is it. The
Wait, but
debate is over, we're
John,
moving to the
I
vote.
think, could I
Please,
just
please.
try for a
No,
minute?
no. We're moving to the vote. This is ridiculous.
I think, John, the pyramid approach won't be, this is because it's an override question, okay?
It has to be.
So I don't think it would be the norm going forward, okay?
Nobody ever knew we had a tiered override. If they did, we wouldn't have had discussion and Mr. Egan saying you couldn't do it the last meeting. So we're moving to the vote, okay? This is foolish. All right?
Bruce, I'm just gonna change the article and then we can vote.
All right, go ahead and change
I'm
it.
gonna propose this article to determine whether the town will appropriate and raise by taxation or transfer from other available funds the additional sum of $1,241,141 for paying the town's assessed share of fiscal year 2017 operating budget of Whitman Hanson Regional School District, provided, however, that the amounts raised and appropriated hereunder shall be expressly contingent upon the approval by the voters at an election of the so-called Proposition 2.5 override question in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 59, Section 21CG of the general laws, or take any other action relation to. Explanation. This article also requires voters' approval of a ballot question at the May 21st, 2016 annual town election. So if approved, the funds will be added to the Whitman-Hanson Regional School budget.
What is this?
And then read the ballot question.
And then the ballot question
That's what should have been read.
as follows. Shall the town of Hanson be allowed to assess an additional $1,241,141 in real estate and personal property tax for the purposes of paying the town's assessed share of the fiscal year 2017 operating budget of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District for a fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016? And I ask we move to the vote.
Okay,
I'll second it if you
Second
want.
it.
Second.
seconded. Okay, all those in favor?
Favor of the motion?
Yes.
Okay, all those opposed?
By the way, this takes it right to the ballot, right?
What's that?
This takes it right to the ballot?
No, we, yeah,
No,
but.
it's going to town meeting.
too. Good, I want people to be
You're
able
gonna
to
have
talk about it.
to, but that was kind
No,
of
it is
premature,
getting
because we
placed
would
on the
have to
ballot.
open the,
Right, this question.
The question.
the article, we're gonna have to reopen the warrant to put that article on.
Yeah, we're gonna do that Monday.
Jay wanted that read the exact way
But that
for
wasn't
that
part of,
purposes.
wasn't part of your motion.
No, you just,
No, it's the motion they're recommending. They,
I know it's been voted. I know it's been voted, but I have the Whitman one that they're voting on, and it reads identical to that. But for their amount. But, yeah, their amount is, $1,762,588, almost the identical language, and they're voting that. They gave me a copy of it, they're voting it this evening. Probably,
Yeah,
as
but
we-
how did they know what they were voting? Was it ever discussed in another meeting?
evidently they had discussed it, because they gave me the copy of the article.
Yeah. Were they told what their choices were?
I can't speak for the town of Western Whitman. I just got that.
Folks, I just want to say one thing, okay? I honestly believe,
That's the way it
I
was on the
honestly
back
believe
notes
that the
with
pyramid approach
agenda.
would guarantee some money to our schools. I understand the energy in here regarding this particular vote. But the intention, I believe, that myself has, and I think Bruce too, I'm pretty sure, was, I believe that I want the schools to get some money. I think putting all or nothing in front of somebody on the one question is dangerous, more dangerous than this approach for the tiered approach.
The only reason they voted that way.
Okay?
Bruce, can I adjourn this meeting?
Please.
yeah.
Yeah, we wanna go home. I just had one comment, and I can appreciate where you're coming from,
See what I'm saying?
thank you.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when you've got a 12-inch gash and you're bleeding out of an artery, a Band-Aid doesn't help. And that's how I felt about the Band-Aid. We need to get stitches, we need to be
Fred,
stitched
I
up,
hope
we
it
need
passes,
to be
because if
able-
it doesn't,
Okay,
you're still gonna have the gash.
yes, go ahead.
I'd entertain a motion from the school committee
So
meeting
moved.
to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
How are you, man? Breath of water. I need a glass of water. Moving on in the agenda.
So Lauren can't go on.
Okay, school committee tells ask me what to do? I Next on the agenda,
Close those doors.
somebody close those doors up back. Somebody close those doors, please. Thank you.
Shut that door, please.
Close that door. Too much scuttlebutt. What's that?
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Warrant articles, is this here?
Do I have my warrant articles here in front of me?
Bruce, Rich is looking for you.
Mr. Chairman, we're not going to review the warrant articles tonight because we got to add the warrant, an article next week. Okay. So what I asked the board to do, do you mind, please? Thank you. Excuse us. Thank you. I had asked the board to review the articles, so if there's any changes or anything that they need to propose, then we can address it next week, but we do have to close the, not close it, we already closed it, but we have to finalize the warrant articles so we can post the warrant articles by the end of next week.
Yeah.
So what,
Reopen the warrant to put that.
add that one article,
Yeah.
right. What we wanted to do this evening was discuss the operational side, of the budget. The Finance Committee is here, and the Finance Committee has worked very hard over the last 3 months to try to make their recommendations for the operating budget, and I've met with them as well, and I think that we've made a lot of progress on what needs to be done, and once again, we need to try to finalize these numbers, and I had asked the board to review their budgets if there's any questions that they needed to address. One thing I just wanted to mention right up front was that when we originally started this process back in December, that we discussed the revenue projections. I discussed it with the board and with the Finance Committee. And just so the board knows that under Proposition 2.5, we're allowed to go up $437,000. Our new growth number is projected at $175,000, and that comes from the Assessor's Office for new houses and construction and stuff. And the increase in state aid that's being proposed in the governor's budget is $52,000, which is minimal. So that gives us a total amount of roughly $664,000 more to spend than last year. We had asked all the department heads and all the boards and the committees to pretty much level service their budgets, which meant there's no new staffing or no new services that were going to be provided. And everybody did that, and it has been presented to the Finance Committee. The major increases for this coming year, health insurance, which is $119,000, pension fund, Plymouth County pensions, $129,000. Then the Whitman Hanson regional school district assessment based upon a 3.5% increase in our statement, our assessment. And then the balance of that, as you just voted, would be done with an override vote. South Shore Voc schools going up $30,000. And we negotiated, as the board knows, all unions have agreed to a one-year contract with no changes in the contracts except for a cost of living increase of 2%. So for all town employees, everybody, police, fire, etc., that adds up to $100,000. So the total of all those numbers add up to $568,000 versus $664. So you can see that we really don't have a lot more to spend in other items having to do with the operating budgets. We certainly have free cash available that we're going to use for the capital items, which we're lucky this year to later to do. And
After last snowstorm, I still think we're in budget, but I'm not sure at this point, and hopefully we won't have to use any of that money to fund a deficit. So, the Finance Committee, Mike, as the chairman over there, and you've got their recommendations in front of you. I don't know if the Finance Committee wants to make any comments at this point.
First off, thank you, Rich, for helping us prepare these budgets. You did an amazing job. It was good to see the transparency you showed us with the department heads. It was a pretty smooth process overall. Rich did a great job, along with all the department heads coming in with very reasonable budgets for the most part. I just want to highlight a couple items that we either haven't approved yet or they were different from what the department requested. The Board of Assessors, they originally requested $151,000, we approved about $141,000. They were requesting 6 additional extra hours for one of their staff. We just felt that this time it's just not a position the county's in to start continuing to add hours to staff. So that's one we did not approve. Another item, obviously the Whitman Hanson assessment, we approved a 3.5% increase. Engineering, we just had a question overall. Typically we've had about $8,500 in the last 2 years, we've never used it. And we've had some opportunities to use it the last couple of years with the highway barn, and some other times we've never used it, so we're wondering why we still continue to have that in there. Maybe it's something we take out, or maybe it's something that the selectmen didn't know was available to them.
Actually, it's never been that low, and I don't know where how does the town engineers stand with the?
It used to be 13,000.
Testing the landfill, you know?
Nothing that has to be done, at this point. But I do think, Mike, that $8,500 is a small amount for
Right.
engineering. If something we had to do, $8,500 for engineering doesn't last very long.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. We had opportunities to use it the last 2 years, we didn't.
Right. But things come up and you
So
have
that's why
to
we make
use
sure
it.
people realize it
It's
is
unusual
there.
that things haven't come up in the last 2 years.
Things will come up, but we just haven't used it.
Because we haven't used it. And when
So I think it's more of a education for the board to know that this money is there
Yeah.
for things that come up
I know
like
it's
this.
there, and certainly if something had come up, we had the opportunity to use it, we would have taken advantage of that 8,500. But it's down to an all-time low, so I would just, I would leave it at the 8,500.
So also some of the other highlights are salaries for highway. We're still debating that one. Last year, as you guys know, someone made a motion on the floor just to arbitrarily increase 5 hours for the administrative assistant there. We're still trying to see if it's truly warranted. It really wasn't ever requested by the department head at that time. It was just kind of, someone stood up, just did it, and everyone just kind of pushed it through. So we're still trying to dig into that to see if it's still money well spent, or if we should bring it back to where she was originally.
Sure.
Library, we're still working on that number. We gotta check a couple things, some math didn't add up, but they came in, they requested a janitor, part-time janitor for up at that building. Obviously, between them and the nursing care over there, they need more of a janitor over there during the day. You have people cleaning up about messes, and you need some additional janitors over there. So that made perfect sense. That was about $15,000. They also requested the open full day Wednesday. Apparently they close half day. They wanted to be open 6 days a week for the full time. It was another $22,000. We just feel the town's not at a point to really have those check files at this point. So that is one thing we did deny from the library's request.
Is that what, so you did recommend 274, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're actually checking some of the numbers just to make sure we did our math right.
Yeah.
Some of the numbers didn't look right, but we're doing 274, which is their normal 2% increase, it's 3-step increases, plus that's the janitor for $15,000 and change.
Okay.
We're just not approving the $22,000 additional hours. Rec, we haven't approved their budget at this point. We've had some questions about where the expenses, where the income actually comes in. Plus, we're kind of concerned when we set up this enterprise fund 3 years ago, we thought it was self-sufficient. From what we're seeing, it's going the other way. So we're a little concerned there that it's not going to be self-sufficient anytime soon, so we kind of held that off at that point. And also solid waste. transfer station basically. Where, again, this is something that was supposed to be self-sufficient in a few years with Waste Zero. It's not going that way. It seems that less people are using the transfer station. The revenue from bags are down. Their expenses are also down with it. But even year over year, the income from the bags are down 15%.
Do we know if the tonnage for the, if the tonnage from the recyclables were up considerably? Okay, and the bags,
Year over year, they're not up or down considerably. Year over year, it's somewhat flat. And we had Waste Zero last year,
as
so
far as the
year over year.
recyclables going out of there, they're not up considerably?
From 2 years ago, yes.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming
Before
that,
Waste Zero, yes. Last year, they're up a little bit, but not.
yeah, I'm assuming because as people get used to the system over the 2-year period, I would assume the recyclables would go up and the use of the bags would go down. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can,
I mean, I'm just turning to a former member of the Board of Health.
yes, and now a member of the Finance Committee, Joe Poliga. If I just want to, we did talk about this with the Board of Health too, and
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. The idea was that this was gonna get adjusted, but with that adjustment after 3 years, we're still not seeing enough of the increment, and that's what was concerning to us. We're not
Yes.
seeing, just, we thought it was gonna be a little bit higher, but, I mean, it's slowly, gradually, and
Yeah.
the fact that the sales of the bags are dropping was just alarming to us.
Yeah.
But it's 3 years. Is that enough time?
Yeah, so,
Clearly, when you go up there, it's not as utilized as it once was.
no, I see that.
Even on a Saturday and Sunday, there's some traffic, but it's not like.
Because you used to be waiting in line there on a Saturday.
And it's not that.
Where does the contract currently stand with the bag program?
That's out of our purview.
It's a
I
3-year.
understand that, but I just,
3 year.
if anyone
Previous
knows.
board signed a 3-year contract with them.
One of the problems, Bill, was that the first year guaranteed the town so much revenue,
Yes,
and the
it
second and third year does
No,
not.
right.
That's where you're seeing the difference.
We said this back when we
Is
started.
that under the control
You
of the
gotta
Board
go
of Health?
last year, people decided to add hours in transfer station.
I know, and we still, do we have accurate numbers from the Board of Health on how many people actually have the blue tubs?
We asked that question, they said they don't have that, they haven't been provided that. They can get us estimated tonnage by those third-party pickups, but we.
See, the difficult thing about the tonnage with the third-party pickups, I don't see how you ever get that, because the only way you could get that
It's an estimate.
is if they were only doing it for Hanson, and then when they went to drop it off, now it gets weighed in, and you get Hanson. But you can't expect a private hauler to just haul for Hanson and go down there half empty, because he's going to other places to pick up. So that was a provision, of the regulations that I don't know how you can ever enforce, to tell you the truth. You know,
Again,
It's totally,
curfew wasn't our
it's
end of that.
totally unenforceable.
So with the finance committee, we just look at it saying, what should the real expenses and what should the town really be contributing to this? And,
Right.
we're supposed to be going towards self-sufficient and we're going anywhere but. So, something's gotta happen, you just can't keep throwing money at it, so.
Yeah, and that means that because you're not gonna be, the least self-sufficient you get, the more on the tax side you have to go. And so, the way it was originally, is we had a $200,000 override 20 years ago, as you remember.
No, I don't.
But when you're just a toddler, yeah. So we voted a $200,000 override to pay for the transfer station. We never worried about it because it was in the tax rate.
Right.
The good thing about it being in the tax rate is that not only did it pay for the transfer station, and it was there, and it compounded at 2.5% a year to pay for the transfer station, you get to take that off your income tax. And the bags are not considered part of a tax, they're a fee. So you can't take them off your income tax, so it's like a double whammy, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people objected to it, but the 3-year contract was signed and that was the end of it. So, but that's all I had to say about that. Just give a little history of it.
Thank you. So, that's ultimately the highlights of what we didn't, accept what the departments either recommended or some of the changes we made. Those are the highlights other than what Rich touched upon, so. That's it.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions for the FinCom on the, or Rich on the budget process?
On the details, the details? There was nothing for capital improvement, I had nothing on that,
This is
right?
just the operating budget.
This is the operating budget for it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk
I thought maybe I was
about-
missing
I'll
a
talk about
section.
the capital improvement in a minute.
On
So,
that, you might see if that's an old book, your salaries might not tie because we did level salaries.
Right, the
which
two-
we added those after.
they know that. yeah.
I didn't ask any questions on the salaries, because of that reason.
Yeah.
And I did notice on the highway department, we got street signs and lines,
Yep.
big increase,
Yep.
right? That was to paint the center or edge of lines to maintain current street signs from fiscal year, what, 2015, 21,416?
It seems a lot of this gets deferred because they haven't had the money.
Okay.
We talked about, starting to do a lot more of that, make the signs more probable. Obviously, we got some issues. We've added more signs, more dangerous intersections. They actually took some money
Okay.
for some of that as well, so.
Went up to 40,000, right? That's what it
Yeah,
was.
if you're, the last couple of years, I think even in last fall, he keeps having articles to kind of pay for the stuff as they come up, so we figured let's give it to him in the budget. We got the money that's up his budget, so we can do it here and not come to us in the fall with an article.
Some towns, their highway department have their own sign shop. We don't have that. We go out to, whatever bid of to buy our sign. It seems more cost effective right now, the way we're doing it, in lieu of a sign shop at the highway department.
I mean, there's only, what, 7 people up there?
The Parks and Fields expenses went up pretty significantly.
Yeah,
too.
you've been around the field many times, those fields, I mean, that's a disaster. They can't kind of put us together. I mean, those fields.
The
are
senior
rough.
field is the worst one on Robinson Street.
It's disgusting. Some of those fields, so a lot of this money is to clean up the fields once and for all.
Well, especially if our kids are going to Whitman to use them, right?
Yeah.
Some of the bigger items here that I should probably call to people's attention that we really don't have that much control over. There's Plymouth County Retirement Fund, if you look at that. Last year was budgeted for $1,287,561. This year it's gone up to $1,417,027.
Not my fault.
Excuse me?
Not me.
Sorry, I got the baseball
was
game.
that?
Somebody's phone.
It was this afternoon.
They're looking at a 10% increase there.
Yeah.
I know Rich has met with that board and kind
Yeah.
of.
What is that
Us
now?
for that. It's actually should have been more, but we're actually gonna prepay it to kind of keep it at that 10% increase, or it could have been closer to 15.
Yeah, we saved $27,000 by prepaying it on July 1st
Oh,
instead of paying it over quarterly over the year.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And then you got the group insurance.
Yeah, it's about a 7.7%
It
increase.
it was $1,554 last year. It's gone up to $1,663,000, which is over about $120,000 increase.
Almost 8%.
Yep. Those are
Yeah,
things.
the town has been very lucky that, for like 4 years, and last year there was a small increase, but this year I'll be going to a meeting on Thursday because they want to vote a 15% increase in health insurance cost, which is a significant increase. We haven't had that kind of increase in years, so unfortunately, looking at the numbers that they provided us, the claims are up significantly for all the health plan programs. And of course, all the communities that are involved, which is 51 communities that participate in these plans. I know there's going to be a lot of complaining about that for sure, at this meeting. But we budgeted what we needed to budget, so we made sure that we had the proper number.
Okay.
So the utilities under recreation went up too, by 30, they're appropriating 30,000, right? From 19,000, I mean,
We haven't voted the rec.
because of that particular,
But because of that, there's some things kind of all over the place, trying to find out what their real revenue is.
Sure.
Because their expenses are much less than what they project,
Yeah.
but so is their revenue. So
Right.
it's kind of one for one. Like I believe they budgeted, 30,000 last year, utilities are at about 12 at
Yes.
this point. But
Yes.
the revenue's down too, so it kind of offsets it.
Offsets
Trying to figure out what's a real budget there. The biggest concern we have with the rec is that, again, enterprise funds for about 3 years, so we still have a full employee there. We'd like to kind of see the rec start paying for some of that.
there's, Major repairs to Town Hall, Plymouth County Hospital buildings. I assume that's where the food pantry is? That building's where the repairs are being done?
Right.
That's repairs for all the town buildings. That, once again, was short, last year,
Yep.
and we pretty much kept it the same. Those were some of the repairs that we did do at the food pantry.
Right.
And, as an example, we had a problem with the door upstairs on the second floor that was leaking that we had to replace. So those type of repairs.
Okay.
Any other questions? One area I should point out where we did save a little bit of money was in the animal control.
So the animal control is a fixed price.
Yeah.
Good contract with
Yeah.
the town of Whitman, that is, 3 towns, excuse me,
Yep.
Abington, Whitman, and Hanson. And so they split the cost and the percentage of the cost, and that's pretty much what it's gonna be.
And that seems to be running pretty well. I haven't heard any complaints.
So it's running real well. I had a meeting with the other 2 town administrators a few weeks ago, and reviewed all the statistics and so forth, and it seems to be going good.
I got a quick question on the water road improvements, right?
For what?
Water road improvements from 10 to 16, so they say road cuts, which includes police detail, I think,
Yes.
particular time. What do they mean by road cuts, Rich? Where they're just clearing for like, what do they mean by road cuts? Do we know?
Road?
Road improvements or road cuts?
The water department.
The water
It's where
department.
Water main work.
Well, they cut trenches in the, actually cut the road for putting in trenches and things, whether it's highway or water.
Okay, so they use infrared paving, has a cost of $3,500 a day.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's
Both
one of the
cuts are
things, you
due.
won't see us, the water is really kind of, they're their own entity, we really have no
Yep.
control over their budget.
I like the explanations that they provided, though. It was pretty. And the last thing I had was on the South Shore Regional Tech, it says waiting for school budget figures. We have those, right, or no?
Yes, we have the final budget. The number that's reflected in there is a $30,000 increase over last year, which is,
That's what you said earlier.
yeah.
Here it is, right here, see,
Yeah, I'm missing it in the details.
877.
What we're gonna do, Jim, is,
Redo these?
once everything is finalized, everybody will get a whole new budget book with all the updated numbers in there, so when everybody's looking at it at the town meeting, it'll all be the same.
Yeah. Okay, great job. Anybody else have any questions for the FinCom?
So do I assume, Mr. Chairman, that the Board of Selectmen is recommending the same numbers as the Finance Committee?
Yeah.
Without the recreation and the transfer station at this point?
Are you happy with this budget?
Absolutely.
Yeah, have a chance- Everybody's had a chance to go through it. You want to make a motion to?
A motion that the board accept the figures presented by the Finance Committee and go forward with that.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, guys.
Nice job, thank you. Okay,
Oh, you wanted to mention the capital plan, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. The only thing, the Capital Improvement Committee has provided me with their plan, and the only thing that is not finalized, and we're waiting for the Repair Committee to get the final number for the McCorn roof, which the engineer is going to have for Thursday night's meeting, I understand?
No, I think they gotta do cuts on Monday because of the snow.
oh, they're doing they're doing it tomorrow,
Is it, you sure?
yeah. Unless there's still snow on the roof over there. Is there? Or did it melt? They were planning it
As
on Wednesday.
discussed, due to the 4 to 6 inches of snow that fell yesterday and the anticipated rain for Thursday and Friday,
Uh-oh,
we feel that it'll be difficult to perform the field work and roof test cuts this week. We are trying to expedite the field work for Monday, April 11th, as this date appears to be the next dry day
okay.
in the forecast.
Once they have that, they're pretty quick, yeah, so they should have that in a couple of days after that.
If we don't have the information by Tuesday night, when we approve the warrant, then I put in the higher amount just in case.
Yeah,
Because if it is the higher amount and we don't have enough to cover it, then we'd have to go back to
Back to
town
town
meeting.
meeting
Right,
again.
right, yeah.
the leak-
So if we don't use the money, that's okay.
I understand.
But we need to at least include the higher amount to be sure, because you want to get this project done during the summertime.
Yes. We just explain at a town meeting when we
Yeah.
have the real number.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay. All right. We took the vote, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're all set. All right. Moving on to the next agenda item. Discuss iPad for selectmen.
Thank you.
We tabled this last week.
Yes.
I really need an iPad, folks. I've got a briefcase behind me with papers in it too, and I'm trying to put things, I have an iPad, but what these iPads would do, the idea is that each one of the selectmen will have it, it'll have his own mail account on it, and we can use them obviously here, hopefully to reduce some of the paper waste that we have. Many times after a
Duplications
meeting,
on
we give the paper documents to Mary to have her destroy them.
Everything's paper.
I think it's, by the way, these will be insured, is that right, Rich? They'll be insured, so that if we drop them or something like that, we can get them
There's a
repaired.
warranty that comes
There's
with
a warranty
it,
that
but
comes
I mean,
with
if
it.
you
And then,
drop them out a window or something like
Yeah.
that, no.
but and then as a selectman's term is over, he turns it back into the office and gives it for the next selectman. So it's a tool in that regard, so.
So it's $2,800, and that also includes upgrading the Wi-Fi here in the office, which
2,800 per year. is
people
for
have
everybody.
complained about.
Oh, for everybody, yeah.
The
Covers all of
Wi-Fi,
them.
It's 2,800 for everybody, right, Rich?
2,800.
Right. And the upgraded Wi-Fi too,
Yep.
right?
Saves on the carbon footprint, too.
Yeah.
Eliminates, saves a lot of trees. Saves a lot of trees, yeah. The Board of Selectmen loves trees. We love trees, yeah.
Hey, speak for yourself.
What's that? Jump right in there.
Danny's a tree cutter.
Casey, that's the best line of the week. Yeah.
I just think it's an absolute necessary tool. I have an old one at home, and I've been debating on buying one for myself, but I've got 2 boys ready to move to college, so I'll be buying them laptops and so forth. So I think this is something that I find worthwhile. I really hate it, Mary, when you're standing there making all those copies, only for a few hours later, somebody come back to you and say, here, please destroy these, you know?
If you think it's gonna eliminate all the copies, it's not.
I don't think it's gonna lay all the copies, I do think it'll reduce it significantly, though.
Yeah. When do we plan on putting this in place? ASAP?
Yeah,
Tomorrow?
Well, first of all, it has to be approved by town meeting.
yeah. So,
What's an article?
Well, this is a separate article?
No, it's gonna be put in the supplemental budget.
Okay. Yeah.
right,
You can get up and talk on that one.
absolutely. I'll bring all my papers,
So
so,
I'll say something.
so,
I think it's a good idea, but I don't know if this is the best board for iPads. You know, maybe, don't take this the wrong way, but
Very good, man.
It's very low tech, very low tech.
some of us may be electronically challenged.
I have that because I refuse to text. I don't like to text.
So I don't know, Jim.
It makes sense. I mean, no offense, gentlemen, but, you know, if I was retired at home, and I know you guys are working retired men, I understand it. I see you working out in your yard all the time, dude, and I know Bill Scott runs his own cranberry bog, and Bruce does looks up all the town stuff.
carry him
you know?
with us?
Yeah, you can carry him with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Why not just have an option? If you want one, you get one. If you
Well,
don't,
that's where I would like to go, but Rich, could we do that?
Make it optional.
I mean,
Could we do it option-wise? It's not all or nothing, is it?
no, you can do it optional.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what happens when one of you guys leaves?
You turn them in.
They turn them in.
The new guy.
You might as well get all 5 of them now.
No, I
We
would
turn them in to the next selectman.
I'd only buy them when I need them, because I want them.
I'm saying, what Bruce didn't want one.
If Bruce doesn't want one, and I do want one, then I'd have one, and he wouldn't.
Yeah, but I mean, if, say he left, Does the new guy get a new,
Or
does he get a choice?
he'd be able to take Bruce's one, I would assume, yes.
No, I mean, if he didn't have one.
If the other guy came in,
Yeah,
fill in his
yeah.
position,
He has
who
a
didn't
choice
have
to
one,
get one.
he should have the choice. I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do in order to make this happen? Obviously, I'm gonna have to make the motion. Whether it gets rejected or not, God damn it, let's call the motion. Where are we, man?
Make a motion.
Motion to add into, unless, I'm sorry, did you want
No.
more discussion?
You need an
Does
article.
anybody feel we shouldn't out there? How are you guys thinking? Do we want more comments? Guy gave me his thumb up. I think it was a thumb. That's some of the others who walked away early. All right? What's that?
I have
For the new town administrator.
Well, he said he's got the laptop, but I'd like that too. That's an option, yeah. Apparently, one of the board members may not use theirs, so we can give it to the town administrator. But, hold on. Did you want to direct this meeting, or you want to?
Chris.
So the only thing I would say is, so we use these for our board at work. Some of them are very technologically challenged, but it works very well.
Yes.
You use Dropbox, you put everything there, you guys have all your materials, and it works very well.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
You'll have to show them.
So you'll be teaching them, right?
See how things go over the next couple months.
You'll be teaching him? Hi, Chris. Joe wants to say
Joe,
something.
yes, Joe.
Chairman, Joe Flair, just a question, I mean, why the iPads and not laptops? I mean, I know iPads are really friendly and internet savvy and everything, and
Yeah.
given you're technologically illiterate, is that what's so challenged? Is that what we're saying? What was the choice, Jim? And I guess,
Well, I guess the choice would be to, we wanted to have 5, but somebody suggested we have 6, one for the next town administrator who comes in here. By the way, I believe his contract says that he gets a personal laptop, he gets a laptop anyways.
In the office.
They're gonna model.
Yeah, you should be on the same page as you if he's here.
Right. And, so the option would be that basically to vote for, to get 5 of them, but if I guess, if only, he wants to get 5, some of these guys may not want to, I don't know. I wouldn't mind getting 5, but if
Give it a try.
problem is I think we should give it a try at the very least. And
I
then if
guess
it
you're not
doesn't, they can always
answering
turn
my
it back
question,
in.
though, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't ask it right.
Okay.
Why iPads as opposed to laptops? I mean, I guess I'm looking at the technology and the liability. I mean, these are discoverable pieces of information, and I think it's great. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong.
No, I
I think it's
understand.
wonderful we're getting into the 21st
Well,
century.
I get you. Why not laptops instead of,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Rich knows the answer to that.
Rich has it.
We looked at the laptops and we looked at, iPad and Chrome, tablets and so forth and so on. And the regional school district, who we have our contract with to handle our IT, we evaluated all of it, and I thought that the best and easiest to use would be to use for the board would be an iPad. And it is easy to use, those of us, I have an iPad.
So it's less technically
You know,
challenging.
So that's the reason why, and the cost
Cost is
is much more reasonable than a laptop, so that was the reason why.
Thank you.
Jim, I have a question for you. You said Mary has to give you and all 5 members
Copies.
so many documents.
Yes,
When the meeting is over, those documents are destroyed.
that's correct.
So how would you get rid of any documents that need to be destroyed on your iPad?
You can delete them, or I can bring them into Chad and have them removed.
Okay? Because that would be my only concern, where you give the papers after the meeting to Mary.
Yep.
to
Well,
be
don't forget, the
destroyed.
iPad is locked, it's under a locked password, right? So that protects it. If anybody, if somebody would leave it behind accidentally, right? If I get emails into my account and now my term is over, I turn it into probably the town administrator, and I would expect him to turn it over to Chad and wipe it clean, have it wiped clean for all the documents and everything else. And then,
Gotta change the code.
unless I think the emails have to be retained.
You'd
don't
have
they?
to, you'd have to decide, see, this is sticky wicket, you'd have to decide which one of the documents that we get
Yes.
as members of the Board of Selectmen are retainable documents, and are public documents. like if you're gonna have a duplicate of the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna have a duplicate of, everybody's gonna have a duplicate of everything that's already on file. Those things are deletable because there's already duplicates. Things that the selectmen send by email back and forth or whatever
Have to be saved.
have to be saved in their public documents, so.
So we,
You
like,
have to really know what's a public document and what isn't, and what's deletable and what isn't, because you get yourself in trouble.
so when somebody leaves, I believe they can make a disc of what those items are for like me, so that they have them on file, right, because they're public items.
First thing is, all the email will be maintained on our network server.
Your own server.
Okay, They won't be maintained on the
It'll
iPad.
be over on the
You'll be
server.
accessing the
On the
email.
server, and that's good, that's a good thing.
And then also the.
But saved documents, I mean.
Save
Yeah.
documents, we could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You would probably just upload them to your cloud and then
Yeah,
yeah.
cloud already
I mean, it
transfer to somebody else.
should be protected, it should be locked too, obviously, if you step away from it for a certain amount.
It automatically locks.
Yeah.
You set that up.
Let's vote.
Okay. All those in favor, you want an article?
I'd like to include the iPads in the
Want an
surplus, in an
If he
article.
wants one.
In the existing article, right, Rich? Which one, existing articles? Supplemental.
On the supplemental, but special town meeting.
Do we add the other one in for the town administrator if he wants one? If he doesn't, he can just take it out? So we have to change the amount, or no?
That's probably a good
Does he
idea.
need one?
idea to go
Well, I don't
with the
think he needs
6.
one, because his
We-
contract
we
will say
can-
he has a personal laptop.
We have a technology budget. I'm sure that
If you
the
want.
$500 or $600, if we have to buy one, we'll
Okay.
buy one.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just go with what we have.
Go with the 5, okay.
So motion made. Mary, did you get that or no?
To purchase 5 iPads for the use of the board and to be funded through the supplemental budget?
Thank you.
Is that was you, Ken?
And we had a second.
Seconded it.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous vote, you got it.
All right, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the last meeting, we also talked about town-owned vehicle of buying.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
And I don't know, the board was gonna think about that and let me know what they want to do.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase a Explorer for a town-owned vehicle for town hall.
Why does it have to be Explorer? Can it be the other one too? I thought we were looking at two
It's
different
for
vehicles.
$3,000, I think it's a bigger vehicle, it's gonna last
Second.
longer.
Okay.
How's it on gas?
Is that a gas guzzler?
No.
No,
gonna
not
be
the new
new.
ones.
So this was, okay.
It's not a Prius. There you go.
So the Explorer, Kenny, in case like they gotta drive through the snow, right, to get to where they're gonna go?
All-wheel drive.
All-wheel
The
drive?
reason why we're considering getting Explorer is because they're the same vehicles as the police cruisers. Okay? Which means that the parts and availability, even though these come with a 5-year,
5-year, 100,000 mile warranty.
5-year, 100,000-mile warranty,
Yep.
bumper to bumper,
How much is it for it? What's the price of ballpark?
29,000,
29K. And how much is it for the other one?
23.
Which is an Escape? Was that it?
It's an Escape.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other vehicles that, you could purchase too.
Yeah.
The only reason why we're trying to consider stay with the Explorer is because we use those now for the police department.
So we're gonna put this on the town hall to be voted on?
Supplemental.
And supplemental?
Yes.
Okay. And we have the money for it, right? You think?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah?
Is that something that can be purchased through like Greater Boston Police Council?
Yeah, that's what we're
The
gonna do.
collective bidding?
That's what we're gonna do.
Collective bidding.
You don't have to go out to individual bids?
State bid list.
Kenny made a motion.
And it was seconded
And it
by
was
Don.
seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous vote. So that takes care of the discussion on the iPad and the Explorer. So now we're into new business. New business, meeting with Recreation Commission. Are the members of the Recreation Commission here? Okay. And we're going to be discussing the audit and contracts and procurement policy as they relate to that audit. And the Recreation Commission, okay? Before we get into this, I have a statement to read. Before we start, I need to clarify that the purpose of this part of the meeting tonight is to address going forward as soon as possible certain issues that the town auditor has highlighted in the town's annual audit with respect to internal controls and policies and procedure at Camp Kawani. Camp is run by the Recreation Commission. The auditor's suggestion and comments focused on verifying employee work hours by using time clocks, integrating the camp computer system into the town system, making sure that fee schedules for the rental of the facilities were followed, including contract procurement process, better tracking of receipts turned over to the treasurer's office, and the need for an inventory log for assets on the property and better process for the issuance of beach passes. Separate and apart from what is being discussed tonight, the auditor recommended that the town take a closer look at some of these same issues. In his capacity as town administrator, Richard LaCamera is currently following that recommendation. At this point, that is a confidential matter and it will not be discussed tonight, or at all by the Board of Selectmen until his work is completed. I am mentioning that tonight only because it is apparent from what has been heard from some individuals that they view tonight's meeting as an opportunity to discuss the actions of the town administrator now. That discussion will not take place tonight. At the conclusion of his work, the town administrator will be providing a report and recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and any discussion about his findings and recommendation would take place then in an appropriate forum. To reiterate, what the town administrator is doing now falls under his authority under the Hanson Town Administrator Act. He has notified the Board of Selectmen of what he's doing. Those being asked by the town administrator are obligated to comply with his requests, including fully cooperating with his requests for information. The board will not be discussing his work until it receives a report and the recommendations from the town administrator. Now we will move on to discuss how to address going forward as soon as possible certain issues that the town auditor has highlighted in the town's annual audit. And that's all I have to say about that. Would you like to begin, Mr. with this?
Dave, as the chairman, is there in the majority of the committee here?
We have 4, I believe.
Okay, I don't know if you want Mary to take your minutes, or you want somebody else to take your minutes.
Is Nicole here?
Have it in the packet.
I'm here.
Okay.
I can take it.
Thank you. This is this.
The Board of Selectmen had met with the Recreation Commission
Oh, there it is.
on December 17th, at my request, to talk about, some of the issues that I had concerning specific issues having to do with security, which I'm not going to discuss, at this point. The police chief and myself had some questions about security issues at the facility. Also discussed some problems with processing of payroll. And then I also informed the commission that we would be doing a compliance audit, that the auditors would go in and look at all policies and procedures and procurement and contracts, and having to do with verifying that they were following the practices, the policies and the procedures that had been set up both by the Board of Selectmen and voted by the commission. So basically, there's a number of items here that I'd like to talk about having to do with the audit that I think we need to address, as soon as possible. So the members here, there's a copy of it for you. You got enough for? So the auditors said during the audit, we reviewed the internal controls and policies at Camp Kawani, and accordingly, we present the following suggestions and comments. The first suggestion was that the Camp Kawani computer network is not connected to the town network and does not utilize the town email system, and we recommend that the network be integrated with the town network. And we have Completed that. We installed a new computer at the Administrative Assistant's office, and it's now connected to the town network, which includes email and so forth, and also document management and so forth. And all the passwords were changed, and nobody has access to that system except for the administrative assistant, myself, and the technology group, from the school. So that area has been addressed. We were informed, that the auditors were informed there's no time clocks that are used to track employees' hours and verifies the time worked. We recommend a time clock be installed on the premises and a formal policy be adopted with respect to the time clocks. It is my understanding, Dave, that there was a time clock down at the beach area at one time.
Yeah, we've always used one at the Cole.
Right. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna make sure that that gets reinstalled if it's still not installed. And then we're going to install one in the lodge. And the reason why that this needs to be done, and for all the other employees in town, we know exactly the times that they work. So if they're working 8 to 5 or whatever, it gets logged on timesheets, and then that gets summarized on the payroll sheets. We're required to do this for federal and state laws, because they can come in and they can do an audit on us and find out that we're not keeping track of the hours worked. And then also, it has to do with pensions, as well, that when Plymouth County, somebody retires, they always ask us, how many hours they worked and so forth and so on. So this has got to be done. So we want to order a time clock to get it installed there, so everybody can use a time clock, and I think it'll be easier for everybody that's there, because a lot of the caretakers are part-time people anyways, and they can just come in and log themselves in, log themselves out, and at the end of the week, they can sign their timesheet. Okay?
Oh, gentlemen?
Do all town employees punch in and punch out?
And they have a timesheet that they write in their time.
And that is the system that we're using in Camp Quaney, I believe, no?
No, you only put down the total hours that are worked, not the actual times that are worked.
Okay, so with the timesheets would not be sufficient to use what the rest of the town uses?
Well, I think it'd be a lot easier if there was a time clock there, because there's a lot of part-time employees that are coming in and out of there to, and I looked at the timesheets, and they're not all in at the same time, they're all in at different times and on the weekends, and I think it'd be, this is what the recommendation of the auditors, and I think it should be done.
Within the town, too, the department heads are here, is that correct?
Pardon me?
The department heads are present, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So, for example, the department heads there, they know when they're out, their employees come in and out, right?
Mhm.
That's not the case at the Camp Kawani?
Well, it's not usually.
So would that?
Not necessarily.
Okay, because that's why I thought it was the reason why it was being requested, but okay.
Did you have a question?
I just had a question. I understand these are recommendations. I don't understand the protocol. Will the rec commission get a chance to discuss them and vote? Or is it, what happens to these recommendations? Are they just automatically a given?
In this particular case, yes.
What? They're a given?
Yes.
And they have to be obeyed?
They have to do it.
The rec commission has
They
no-
have to follow all the town's policies and procedures having to do with payroll.
So then the only one with the time clock will be the Camp Kawani
No.
workers?
No, we have the highway department, we have the water department, there's one over at the fire department.
And they all punch?
They all punch.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's all part of basic internal control, generally accepted accounting practices, basically. That's what it amounts to. Right, Helen? Yeah. Okay.
The other thing that they looked at having to do with policies and procedures, having to do with rental agreements. And they noted that there were multiple instances in which groups paid a reduced cost, which was not authorized and in accordance with the established policies and procedures. And we recommend that a secondary review of all contracts signed by the camp to ensure that the contracts conform to established policies and procedures of the Recreation Commission. There is no approval right now of any of the rental agreements by the commission that get submitted, whether they conform to the fee schedule or they don't conform to the fee schedule. And what we'd like to do is in the accounting office is set up that all rental agreements come into the accounting office, and they will review the rental agreements to make sure they comply with the policies and procedures and flag any that don't. Also making sure that the deposits are received, with the rental agreements and along with the security deposits, because there's been a number of instances that some of the deposits haven't been received, some of the payment was paid after the event, and a number of them did not have the security deposits which are required. So the town accountant's office will be setting up spreadsheets, and that certainly the commission can have copies of that, and they'll all be reviewed to make sure that they are complied with, and there's no issues with them. The other thing is that we want to make sure that the administrative assistant is the only one that can draft, a rental agreement, and that certainly if the board, committee, and commission wants to review that, that's okay too. Certainly, if they have an issue or something with a rental, they should look at that and address any concerns they have to do with that. The other thing they want to address is having to do with contracts.
Can I just touch on something
Sure.
there, Rich, before you jump to the other one? I don't want to give anybody the impression that you can just willy-nilly give somebody a reduced rate. There are rules and regulations that permit the Recreation Commission for giving somebody reduced rates. You probably should tell everybody what those are. I mean, don't town residents get a reduced rate on certain things?
Town residents do get a discount on all rentals, 10%, is that correct, Mr. Paul?
Yes.
To rent the facility. Also, so in regards to, say, weddings and functions like that, those are strictly by what the cost is. Unless you're a town resident, you can get the discount. The only time we would give the discounted rate on a contract is if we have somebody or an organization come in with a proposal for us for a recreational event that, we may find or see is a benefit to the town, and that we will discuss as a commission and decide whether or not we think this is a viable type of a program that would work. But in regards to individuals who would come in and say, can I get a discount on my wedding? No, that cannot happen. Can I get a discount on my camping? No, that cannot happen. It would only be for a program that somebody is proposing that would give recreation to the town.
And there are town departments who are entitled to the free use of the, is it the?
That is correct. We
The
do
lodge or the
offer the town departments, one free rental a year, I believe it is, something like that
Right.
a year. So, we have it in our procedures that, these are all listed out as to any discounted rates that would be given. But the Recreation Commission, to my knowledge, has the ability to set rates for say, we have salsa dancing or something. Somebody comes into us with a program that they want to try out. And we have different areas that we can say we could, try this program out. We'll work on a percentage or whatever on a basis and see if it works.
You have to vote on that. There has to be, from what I understand, and looking at the rules and regulations, there has to be a vote of the board, and then immediately after the vote of the board, that notice of that vote has to be sent to the town administrator,
That is correct.
informing him that some kind of discount of that effect has been approved by a vote of the board.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, it goes further than that, which
Yes.
we're going to address.
Okay.
First. But
Yes.
is that any contract that needs to be approved under 30B, which was approved by the town in 1992. Has to be brought to the town administrator, and then it has to go to the Board of Selectmen to approve. The commission is an appointed commission, and it's not an elected board. And some elected boards have certain statutes, they can do certain things, but they're not allowed to sign any contracts under any conditions.
Okay, so would that include all the rental agreements? Are those considered contracts? Each rental?
Well, I mean, that's a debate, because nobody's approving them right now.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody approves them. Commission doesn't approve them, the town administrator doesn't approve them, town accountant, nobody approves them.
Well, who
I mean, what rental agreements are we talking for?
The
Renting
weddings
hall?
or whatever.
Yeah, because this, we have a rental agreement that was passed through town council. I'm not sure if it was current town council or not, but it was approved by town council, and that's what we've been going by all along, and one has ever said that it was not. This is,
This has a signature line on it?
No, there is no signature line.
Only signature of applicant.
It, to us, it does.
Right.
You know,
But it should.
No, what I'm saying is that whether or not everyone has signature lines doesn't make it not a contract. Any rental agreement is a contract.
And you're just doing it from a legal perspective, I understand. So, Rich, the point has been made. 30B, 1992, has to go to the town administrator to the Board of Selectmen to be approved. Similar to almost like we do for licenses.
we do it with everybody else.
Like
All
liquor
of them. I
licenses.
bring every contract since I've been here.
Okay.
Any contract that I'm gonna sign, I ask the board's permission to sign it before I sign it.
See, if you had
And
an
the same
iPad.
thing applies to everybody.
Jim, it would be a lot quicker if you had an iPad, wouldn't it?
We could look up 30B. Absolutely.
now, does that supersede the Recreation Commission's policies and procedures that have been approved by the Board of Selectmen?
Supersede, what, having little contracts? Doesn't say anything about contracts in these.
Pardon me?
Doesn't say anything about approving contracts in the policies and procedures.
I don't know, do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy of it, if anyone would like to
Yeah.
read it.
Your bylaws?
I don't have them.
Do you have bylaws?
No,
Does Brett doesn't have bylaws?
Dave.
they're approved by town
Oh, is
meeting.
that it right there? Oh,
Thank you.
But he has
That's
policies.
it.
that's a copy of that.
That's not law, though. It's-
Yeah, and this isn't law, I mean, this is just a policy that was set up. It doesn't tell you anything about signing contracts.
Yeah, well, why don't you just keep going?
One of the things it does say in here, just looking at for rentals, it says applicants must fill out and submit and accept it to the Providing Recreation Department a rental agreement prior to the individual or group staying for a day or an overnight outing. That isn't being done.
Meaning the rental application is not being done?
Not being approved by the rec commission. That's right here in the rules and regs.
I'm sorry, we're supposed to approve, the rec commission approves each rental of the cabins?
That's what it says. I didn't make up the policy. That's what it says. Your policy, not mine.
It was made up in May of, was that made up in May of last year?
This was revised in May, last May.
Last May
There was
by-
one previous to
Yeah,
that.
okay.
The one I find in general, number 5, no individual or group may utilize a lodge free or at a reduced rate unless it is stated specifically in the policies and procedures or is specifically voted upon by the Recreation Committee. Notice of any change to a structured fee shall be given to the town administrator immediately after it is voted upon. That's,
So it says voted upon, that doesn't mean signed or approved.
that would
Voted
be
upon would be approved by the, yeah.
by the board.
Yeah.
So we,
So if they
so
were-
we did the Hanson Has Taste. Met with the board,
Yeah.
and they approved it.
Right.
What should have happened was.
Yeah, but that's a nonprofit organization.
Right, but it still should,
Different than a nonprofit.
but it still should have went through the town administrator, is what I'm saying.
Do our town meetings are supplied, the minutes, I'm sorry, the minutes to the meeting, that's not sufficient is what we're saying? Like if we approve something, it should be on our minutes, correct?
No, you just read the point where it says it has to go to town administrator after.
But our, bringing our minutes, our meeting minutes to the town administrator, that would not be sufficient, or that would?
As what? As approval of it?
Showing that there would have been a vote on it.
There's no sign on the, there's no signature on the actual contract, right? There's nobody sign off on it, is that correct?
There's a signature of applicant on each contract.
Yes.
So if you were gonna come in and rent for a wedding, there would be an application that you would fill out, and there would be a signature of applicant.
That's the person who's requesting the space.
Correct.
But
I think what Rich is
but
saying
who's approving
is,
it?
well, because it's a standard contract that the Board of Selectmen had approved, I believe a couple of years ago, I believe that the commission thought that that would be an approval for.
I think it has to go through town
So,
administrator.
just so I have it right, so if I'm gonna write up a rental agreement tomorrow for a wedding, I need to bring it to the commission to have them approve the rental agreement?
What we're gonna do, Nicole, is make a recommendation of what the policy and procedure should be about following with rental agreements and so forth.
Okay.
I'm just outlining, what I think needs to be addressed. One of the things that.
Does this whole thing go back long before this board, or were the other boards approving it?
It's been an issue for the previous two town administrators, I can tell you that. It's been brought up before, so. One of the issues that I have with a rental agreement that for the past 3 years, and now it's been signed again, has to do with the Bluegrass and the Bogs Festival, or whatever it's called, and which is a pretty large group of people. In the previous 3 years, instead of being charged $4,500, they were only charged $1,000, and that was never approved by the commission. I looked through 4 years of minutes, and it never was approved. Now, there's a number of concerns that I have, that I know the police chief has, the Board of Health has, about this festival. And this year, it go in front of the commission, recently, a couple of months ago, and they charged them $2,500 instead of the normal rate of $4,500, which is still a reduced rate. This is not a nonprofit organization. This is a company. It's called Old Productions, Inc., and they're a company that is looking to make money. So I have a concern about that, and it's worse than that, because if you look at, their website, they're getting use of all of our cabins and our cottage throughout the whole facility for a 3-day weekend. And we're only charging them $2,500 for the 3-day weekend. And on the website, they're charging anybody that's interested in using one of those cabins $80 a night. Now, our normal fee is $40 a night, and they're not paying $40 a night. I got a problem with them subleasing our property, town-owned property, and making a profit on it. I don't think that's right, and that's me. I'm sorry. I mean, I know they voted for it, and you certainly have a right to vote for that. But I don't think it's right. And then also, in the policies and procedures, it says no vehicle, no recreational vehicles, are allowed, or RVs are allowed, and they're allowing RV vehicles, and they're charging them $60, for the weekend. And then they're also charging for tent camping of $25, which I think we charge $10, if I'm not mistaken.
Where are they putting the RVs?
I'm sorry, please don't interrupt, okay? If you want a question, just raise your hand and the Board of Selectmen will take care of that for you. Then on top of that, they're charging for premium on-site parking, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night is additional fee. They're charging for remote parking, and I understand, I don't know if they've done this yet, but they're gonna ask the school to use their parking lot to transfer over a shuttle bus. I think that's wrong. They shouldn't, if they're gonna charge, then the school ought to get the money. for them to charge in that parking. A number of issues, other issues that I have is that, I don't know, the police chief feels the same way, that they're expecting at least 1,500 people there. We ought to have at least police details there, to be there while they're there, because they're gonna be there, 24 hours a day for 2.5 days, and I'm concerned about that. The other thing that I'm concerned about is the trash that's generated from that amount of people. We're disposing of that trash, not them. Also, our staff. I looked at the staff for the last 2 years of the staffing level that we have to provide for that event. And that event, staffing is costing us between $1,100 and $1,800 for that weekend. We're losing money. We're supposed to be in the business of making money here. And I've complained about this since I got here, of being an issue. And I think that this needs to be addressed. And I don't know how you explain to the townspeople that you're renting it to them at a reduced rate, you're charging double what we normally charge, and they're making a profit on it. I don't understand that.
Okay.
You can explain it to me.
Well, what we have is, first and foremost, we are a recreation commission. We are here to promote recreation. Our mission is not to make every cent that we can possibly make off of everyone that comes to the camp. This is a program that is growing. It's a wonderful event, and the way it's laid out, it sounds like they're making a fortune on this. This company is making next to nothing off of this. It's people who love music and want to promote bluegrass, whether you like bluegrass or not. I'm not even the biggest fan, but it's a fantastic event. They have approximately 30 bands that will play. They'll be playing from Friday night through Sunday noon. There has to be a way of paying for the entertainment that's there. They're not going to get it by not charging people to go there. They have their own security, they run everything. We barely have to do a thing on our end of things. When they leave, the place is clean. It's a family event, there's kids everywhere. It's open to anybody who wants to come, and I would recommend anybody who's here to go and see what a wonderful event this is. We are a recreation commission. We have the facility there, we have the ability to make money with the weddings and with the lodge and whatnot, and that allows us to not have to just charge ridiculous amounts sometimes if we think it's a worthwhile project. And this is one that we think is a worthwhile project. We have Cranberry Cove that is a losing endeavor. We do not make money there. We subsidize it every year by money that we generate from the facility. There are different events, different things that do not make money necessarily, but it's a benefit to the town of Hanson. This is another thing that I think is a benefit to the town of Hanson. These people, if we charge more, they are breaking even. They are not making a killing on this. So, as much as Mr. LaCamera does not like the idea of this, I think it's a wonderful thing for the town of Hanson, and I think anybody here should go and see what a great event it is.
I think maybe what he's trying to say is maybe that you could examine it a little more closely in the future, so to make sure that it's at least a wash or a balance between what it's costing us for the employees to clean up.
Well, it absolutely is at this point. We started them off low, and the amount of people coming has grown.
Yeah.
Our intention this year was to raise it, and we did from the $1,000. Last year at $1,000, they made $700 is what they made. This year, they expect more people, and it was quite an event last year, so we raised it to $2,500. And who knows, at some point, we could be charging more than what our regular rates are. But you cannot start an event off here when they're here. You have to somehow find a medium that works for everyone, if you want that event. And I know you don't like it, Rick.
I disagree with it, I'm sorry. I'm concerned about the taxpayers of Hanson, and I won't be here much longer.
But this is an
But
event.
I brought to the attention back in December,
Yeah.
you know, that they were only paying $1,000, and we were looking at the $1,000 and we're saying, we're losing money here. And then to find out they're turning around and renting the place out on our dime, I don't think is right. I'm sorry.
We are now growing the program, and we are now charging $2,500.
It's still not making money on it.
We're covering our expenses and a little bit more.
If we had,
And on a weekend, that there would be nothing going on.
if we had 3 weddings there, we would collect $15,000 for that weekend.
I could book 3 weddings there for that
You
weekend.
know? What are we doing?
We are also recreation, and I
The other,
fact that you
all right.
don't see that.
the other thing,
Please.
one more thing,
I think
one more thing, we'll move
I
on
think
to
we
the other
understand where
thing.
we're going. Can we,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one more thing.
Yes.
Then it can go to you.
yeah,
They don't provide us any insurance, no liability insurance, for nothing. The insurance company's saying, what's going on? Why don't we have insurance for them for this event? And we have none. So if somebody gets hurt up there, somebody's drinking up there, or something happens,
covered under the.
we're gonna be responsible for
As
it.
far as I know.
I don't have any liability insurance from them, I've never seen anything.
Well, then that needs to be.
Well, see, that's the whole issue.
Oh, wait,
Excuse me.
yeah,
The whole issue is that the commission should have come and sat down and discussed the event with me, with the fire chief, with the police chief, and the Board of Health. Because there's Board of Health issues as well that need to be addressed there as well. And I know finally, I got you going to the Board of Health next Tuesday to discuss the issues having to do with this event.
Finally?
Yeah, finally, because I've asked the Board of Health at least a half a dozen times to have the commission come in and discuss this, because there's problems with the septic systems up there as well, and you know that as well as I do.
Plus,
Yeah.
they
So gentlemen, please, okay? I agree. I understand what you're saying. Okay, we've had the points to cover. We talked about covering from the audit, right?
Now I got more to cover,
I know you do.
but that lady has a question.
But I think also I want to remind what Bruce read into the record, which was that he basically said that you were still conducting your investigation. Rich?
I'm concerned about this event right now that's gonna
It's
happen.
coming up?
May 20th or whatever the date is.
Right.
I'm very concerned about it.
but the
amount
detail,
of
what I
people
think
that's
what
gonna
he's
be
saying
there.
is the details of that and the semantics of what have to be done to correct that, I think
Shouldn't be
are all-
addressed here.
Are all part of
right now.
the auditor's concerns to get in with the.
But Rich, I do agree with what you're saying. I think
Recreation
if there's a liability issue like that, yes, we're gonna have to address those items. I'd like to move on to what we have to cover.
Well, Bruce, that lady had a question up there first.
Yes,
I guess maybe my question would be better off later. I was just gonna ask about, have there been any issues with the police department in this event? Because I thought for the last years that it was very peaceful, there was no brouhaha, and you're making it seem like they really are concerned, and I just,
They are concerned.
I will say that
for what reason?
There has been events. There have been
I would
calls.
ask everybody that we try to maybe pick this up on a different time to
Yeah,
address
I'm
the points
thinking-
then.
Well, you let him go off for 10 minutes about how the taxpayers are concerned, and she has one question.
No, no, no.
And now it
that's
can't get answered.
I agree, we allowed her, she asked her question and he answered it. I also allowed Mr. Laus to answer the question in which Mr. LaCamera had. But folks, prior to this, I'll read to you exactly what Bruce said, because apparently nobody heard it, right? At this point, this is a confidential matter and it will not be discussed tonight or at all by the board until his work is completed. I am mentioning it tonight only because it is apparent from what has been heard from some individuals that they view tonight's meeting as an opportunity to discuss the actions of the town administrator now. That discussion will not take place tonight. That's what he said, that's what he read in the record.
So Jim, the town administrator shouldn't have said anything about Blueberry on the board then?
I believe
Am I right?
both. I believe the whole thing should admit. I think we've given leeway to everybody on this. Yes, Jim.
I think you're wrong, Jim, I'm sorry. I've been trying to address this issue for months,
But tonight is not the time to do
Hold on
it.
for a second.
This event,
Please, please, please.
this event is happening on May 20th.
Right.
And there's a number of concerns, and the
Okay.
commission hasn't discussed them with anybody.
Okay, so
That's
then,
my concern.
I understand, Sir Rich. So if we can hold an executive session next week?
We don't have to hold an executive.
All right, you
Can't
want to hold,
an
you want to hold a
executive
public,
session.
you want to hold a public session? So, and we can present to Mr. Blouse all the issues, you've given him all the issues of our concern? These are not the first time he's hearing these?
I'm talking about the bluegrass.
I know, I'm asking you, this is not the first time he's heard your concerns on bluegrass.
Correct.
Okay, so he understands your issues on bluegrass,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. And you're ready to answer his issues with those, correct? All right.
Oh, wait.
I'm part of the commission, my name is Jim Hickey.
Yes, Mr. Hickey.
Did the town administrator and Dave Bloss, was this a one-on-one? That your concerns were expressed to Dave?
If you recall, back in December 17th, I discussed these issues at the commission meeting, and you had gotten up and left.
I had got up and left because you said I was liable if I was sitting in my living room and somebody drank at Camp Kawani and God forbid, and I quote you, God forbid they left and killed someone, that I would be liable.
If you...
So I got up and I left that
Okay, hold
meeting
it.
because
Let's
that was
try
a
to-
ridiculous statement made by you.
Let's try to keep things cool, okay?
It's not a
Let's-
ridiculous
let's
statement.
Let's let common heads
If
prevail
you
here.
know, I'm
Please.
sorry, this is an important issue for the
Way
town.
off base now.
This is an important issue for the town. If somebody's drinking there, and the commission knows that somebody's drinking there, and they don't do anything about it, and God forbid something happens to somebody, they could be personally liable for it, besides the insurance company. The laws have completely changed. And all my point was, at the meeting back in December,
Let this lady speak over here.
that was a major concern that I had.
Ma'am, please. Yeah, okay.
I'm new to the commission just of a few weeks. I've only been to a few meetings, and the meetings that we've had are 2 to 3 hours at length. And being new, I asked to go on a tour of Camp Kawani, and when I was visiting with Jim, I thought he was a full-time caretaker, and I guess there's no full-time caretaker. There's no recreation director. I'm new, so I'm like, so are we all I knew I was a volunteer, but I thought some people might be getting paid to work. So we're all volunteers, and when I went to the South End, there's a project that's been sitting for like 9 months because we can't get contractors, and I'm trying to work on that now. But my observation at this point, I'm not sure I understand the hostility. I'm sitting here going, maybe I shouldn't have gotten into this. The people that I've sat with, I don't even know them that well, but they were talking about contracts and drinking and about other weddings and other functions that were coming about, and they were very concerned, and I'm not sure, I think I'm missing, we talked about this blues thing that's coming up, and they were very concerned. So I guess I'm disenchanted and distressed at the environment.
Yes, this really shouldn't be happening right now. This is something that should have been, in my opinion, should be discussed, as I said, as part of the, the trying to resolve those problems without.
That they do, I mean, the drinking, we're talking about drinking, maybe we should look at whether we should do weddings or not.
The weddings is done by a bar service, that's a whole different situation.
At night?
Yeah.
Or after they go to bed?
Correct. No, there's no alcohol allowed on the campground after hours.
Okay.
Rich, I'm going to read to you. The meeting says the new business, and this is on the agenda. Meeting with the Recreation Commission to discuss the audit, contracts, and procurement.
Okay, we're gonna discuss the contracts now.
Okay.
The contracts, and Jay, I hope you can go on this, because the commission just recently signed a new 3-year bar service contract. And Jay, can you comment on that, please, because I guess...
Yeah, from Rich and I had looked at this issue up and down regarding the signing of contracts. While some of the issues that we talked about in terms of like kind of releases might not have to be executed by either the town administrator or the board of selectmen, there can be no doubt that a contract, a 3-year contract, or any kind of long-term service contract or substantial contract can be executed by the Recreation Commission. I looked up and down from the town meeting history to the statutes, to the wherever else I could find authority to try and create authority within the Recreation Commission. It doesn't exist, that they don't have the authority to execute that contract. They don't have the authority to go outside the parameters of procurement for those types of things. It specifically applies, we looked at it up and down and sideways to make sure that contract could not possibly be legal.
Okay. So is that, did they make a recommendation in the audit?
I think the recommendation should be,
Yeah.
without wading into, with just keeping it on legal, is contracts should be reviewed and should be on form. I think it's time, I don't know what my predecessor reviewed, I'd be happy to review, and we have standard form contracts and standard form rental agreements we can work on in releases and in indemnification, but we can work on a set of standard forms, but any contracts, it really has to go through the town administrator's office. A simple release for something for use by, where someone's releasing and taking responsibility and indemnification should be run through the town administrator, but might not have to be countersigned by the Board of Selectmen. However, any kind of substantial use agreement or services contract or anything else like that has to follow the normal process. You guys have those broad shoulders. Otherwise, and I think what Rich is suggesting is that there is substantial liability concerns across the map on all of these things.
Well, what I find really, really crazy is that when those contracts were approved, whatever Board of Selectmen might have approved them, that they didn't include some kind of liability and protection from the town in the way of a hold harmless or liability clause.
I haven't seen any of them, so
Because every time you rent a cabin, you rent the Needles Lodge, you have a bar service, you want to protect yourself against somebody slipping and falling or hurting themselves or falling down the stairs into the lake or whatever happens up there. And, you know, somebody's got to sign that contract.
all of those have to have release and indemnification
Yeah,
provisions.
so,
Not
I mean-
all those, a consumer shouldn't have to carry insurance. Obviously, a
right.
park service should, obviously, the Bluegrass Festival should have insurance naming the town as an additional insured for a substantial amount, at least $3 million in the aggregate and $1 million per occurrence. It's that kind of event that.
But like, do the rental agreements have that? Do the
They don't have-
regular contracts have it? I mean,
Again, if it's a simple consumer, release and indemnification might be sufficient in the
Right.
form of a rental agreement.
I would be surprised if they don't have it. I mean, I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but I would be surprised if they don't have it. Do they have it in it, Nicole?
No, I don't believe so. I can read you what is on there.
Well, no, as long as you see that there's no kind of indemnification to hold the town harmless or anything like that in those, in a standard rental agreement?
I believe it. Have you read it, Jay?
Usually towards the
So
end.
Rich, so we had the current contract that we are using has gone to previous town council,
There's,
and they approved
What's it
this
say?
contract. So we're
It
just
says-
going by what.
Let her read this. Nicole, can you read that, please?
it says Camp Kawani is a town-owned and operated facility. I/we hereby release and forever discharge the town of Hanson, the said Recreation Commission, and its members, officers, employees, agents, and instructors, their heirs, assigns, and their administrator for any and all other claims or damages whatsoever, both in law and in equity, on account of arising or resulting from known or unknown injuries, personal or otherwise, including any damages from my group's participating actively, or as spectators, or as a result of cancellation of a reservation by the Recreation Commission.
Okay, so there it is.
There is
Well, that's about halfway.
Yeah.
We need the indemnification.
Right, yeah.
And again, those
At least we know
contracts
there's something in there.
are
I mean,
just- well,
that's what I wanted to know.
It's half a loaf, though.
Yeah.
I think that we have to tighten those up, and we have to make sure that they go through the process. Yeah, the way we have a chief procurement process so that we can centralize these things and have good record keeping for that. So it's important to do that. Again, I'm not suggesting that every single release has to get executed by the Board of Selectmen every 2 weeks when you guys get together, but that form is a start, and maybe at the time when prior town council did it all those years ago, it was about what they needed, but in this day and age, a simple use agreement for someone renting a cabin, I would want indemnification too. If someone's running a wedding, or, it's a multi-day event, we're gonna need something much more substantial than that too.
Yep.
So that's again, why I think Rich is suggesting that there be a centralized process, so that there's I want to make sure we protect the Recreation Commission members as well as other people in town. The fact that there's no liability insurance for the Bluegrass Festival is a significant concern, but we would pick that up in a contract.
And that goes back to what you said, Rich, the 30B, right?
And the bar service, that's a whole different thing.
That's something in the past that we voted on, but it's always gone to town administrator and town council. That's always has been.
But it also went out for an RFP too, right?
Hmm?
It went out to get quotes.
Yes.
So a new 3-year contract should have went out for an RFP. And, the commission doesn't have the authority to do that. I was just given a copy of it, and I looked at the contract, and I would have made a lot of changes in that contract. It's just me.
I just think, for the record, we are a group of volunteers, we meet every 2 weeks, it's an open meeting, we invite people to come. In my about 5 years on the board, the town administrators have come 3 times, but it's open every time. We take the suggestions, we welcome them. The selectmen came a few months ago, and, as a group, that's the first time. We welcome suggestions, and we welcome anybody to come in and say whatever. When the previous administrator came to our meetings, he suggested Hanson Day. The Rec Commission was a big part of Hanson Day. We did not make money on Hanson Day. That was not what we were supposed to do. That was not our objective. That's in the same spirit. That's the objective of Bluegrass, is recreation for the town. If it was the idea of the administrator for us to make money, we were not directed in that way for Hanson Day, which was initially proposed and directed by the previous administrator. I think we're following history. I don't think we're callous. Bluegrass in the Bogs has grown in the past 3 years. We're showing improvements with regard to recreation. So I just think in the spirit of what we as volunteers do, we welcome all the help that can potentially come to us. And we are open as far as our minutes go. I thought regarding any contracts or something, I thought my impression would be that our minutes, when they were submitted to the selectmen in the town as part of our, following our meeting, I thought that was sufficient. And if it wasn't, if we were told about it on a previous occasion, we would have addressed it. So I just feel like we're doing something, we're being talked about that we're doing something wrong. And we take constructive criticism, but we weren't trying to, abuse any type of policy or system or anything as such. With volunteers creating recreation for the town of Hanson.
And if there are inconsistencies with regulations and policies, with the way I see it, these have been going on for quite a while, even before your board, and now at least they're coming to a head so they can be corrected.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, I don't want you to get discouraged. Almost every board in this town, even this Board of Selectmen, doesn't get paid. We're volunteers, and certainly we don't. Nobody's perfect, and we can't do everything right. And if you're meeting every 2 weeks, there's a lot of people that aren't familiar with the intricacies and the details of. Not everybody's a detail freak like me, and reads the rules and regulations and knows them at the back of their hand. And a lot of boards are just following the procedure that the other boards have followed. And some of these things are just lost in translation over the years. I've seen it. Bylaws are ignored, things are ignored, rules and regulations are ignored. It goes on almost with every board, every commission, until somebody catches it and then you correct it. So please, don't get discouraged. You're new, and this isn't something that happens at every meeting between the Board of Selectmen and, calling in a board. It just, and sometimes things get out of hand, but that happens. You know, we're all human, so I don't want you to get
Well,
discouraged.
Thank you, and I know things can get out of hand. I guess it was just the anger. I'm like, why is there, you know?
Laura?
The
Well,
passion,
a
that's all.
couple things. I appreciate what the guys at the Recreation Commission do. For years, they didn't get much money or much support or whatever, and there are a lot of good things. The buildings themselves are looking fantastic. Also, though, I really appreciate Mr. LaCamera following through and being diligent on following this. But to your original letter that you opened this up with, we're really supposed to be talking about the go forward, moving
yes.
forward.
Yeah,
What are these good volunteers supposed to be doing? And not dredging up whatever we
And
think
I
they may have.
apologize for not chiming in and stopping that before it got too far along. That's my fault. I'm the chairman. I'm supposed to be able to control those things, and I apologize to those people who, you know, get dragged into this. I really do. So let's
So
continue
maybe
here
because
with-
Laura said it instead of me, we can do it now, right? Let's move forward.
Don't you forget it.
I agree. Rich? I
mean, it's
understand your
gonna
concerns
make
on this,
the
and I agree with you.
press
Then
on
you know what to
Thursdays.
do?
Other than
We'll add it
that,
we'll add it to next week's agenda, and we'll talk about how to fix it. Now we're talking about the problems that we have, right? Now, next week we'll meet and try to go how to fix them, especially if bluegrass is coming up. All right?
The last concern I want to mention has to do with procurement of construction projects that, I'll be nice and say that they need to be better managed, because the town administrator and the building inspector are not getting notified on a timely basis having to do with projects being done. And I'm the chief procurement officer of the town, and the new town administrator will be the chief procurement officer of the town. And any procurement having to do with anything that's done, any projects, they should notify the town administrator before they go and do anything. And I think that that's an issue that needs to be addressed as well.
Noted. Do you agree?
I agree.
Thank you.
Yep. That's fine.
At least we agree on something.
Are we moving on to the next bullet? Under the,
I'm all set.
okay.
You mean you want to talk about the
Well,
inventory?
yeah, you want to talk about the inventory of assets?
It's not just the inventory of the assets for Camp Kawani. We're in the process of doing inventory for all of the buildings here in town.
Yes.
The town accountant is going through that right now. We're taking pictures, so they don't have to do anything. We're gonna do it, and because not only do we have to do it for the federal government to know what the inventories are,
Yeah.
but also we have to do it for the insurance companies.
And it's part of, actually, it's part of the Town Administrator Act, that the town administrator is supposed to keep a standing inventory and a running inventory of all assets belonging to the town. So, as I just said, ma'am, that hasn't been done for years, and now we're trying to play catch-up, because that's part of law as well, so.
By the way,
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the town administrator, is that company that does the bluegrass, that for-profit, obviously?
Yes. It's not a nonprofit.
And it's a production company, per se?
It's called
It's a
Old Productions, Inc.
Teacher from Hopkinton that loves bluegrass who's trying to,
But he owns a company.
he did make a company to do this, yes.
Prior to them coming to Hanson, they were at Maple Park in Wareham. Do you know why they left there?
I don't know specifically why they left.
When did they leave?
They left here originally because we were charging too much.
See, there's nothing.
Mr. Chairman.
There's nothing in it, I just want to make
Well, we're
something.
going back to bluegrass on the bogs again.
No, I just want to make something clear, though. I'm going to clarify something, okay, if I could? There's
You wanna
nothing
apologize
in
again?
the rules and regs of the Recreation Commission that preclude them from giving any kind of a break to either a tax exempt organization or a private organization. They can give a break on the rentals to anybody, as long as they vote it. Maybe that's something that needs tweaking, okay? But I just wanted to point that out. You know, not that I'm trying to play Perry Mason here as a defense attorney, but the rules and regs don't discriminate between private entities who happen to make money and tax exempt organizations. So I just want to make that clear.
In this Fair, moving forward, I think we were talking
Thank you.
about the property inventory.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you guys could possibly, I think this kind of falls under this category, if you can provide an update on the town-owned property project that you guys were working on and where it stands and,
I don't know.
yeah, you were taking an inventory of everything the town owned, you were gonna go through it to
Yes,
figure out.
I have no idea where that stands.
Yeah, it's sitting on my file cabinet,
Your tickler file.
and as soon as I get to it,
Yeah.
it'll get out.
Because you
It's all
actually,
done, ready to
I've had a
go.
lot of calls.
What are
on
my
the-
priorities
I've
over
had
the
a
next
lot
3
of-
weeks?
The Streeter property was right at the top. I've had calls on people wondering when that's, because they heard me mention it.
We've had calls, and people have come in and looked at it, they can come in and look at it
People are
anytime they
interested.
want.
Guys, this is,
Bidding on that.
this is open meeting violation. Come on, Bruce.
What's that?
This is an open
Well,
meeting
she asked the
violation.
question.
Doesn't matter, it's not on the agenda.
Well,
Come on.
well,
I appreciate it, I do, I understand, but right now, let's stick to the
I'm sorry,
agenda.
Jim, but that was on the agenda. You would ask, your property inventory was one of the bullets.
Property inventory
inventory.
regarding the Recreation
I'm
Commission.
sorry, then they jumped off on.
I know, and I'm saying, and I'm trying to bring us back on track, so
It's part of
please.
property inventory.
Otherwise, I'm gonna get up and go. Let's go.
Part of property inventory.
I hear you, brother. Let's go.
It wasn't present,
It was
I did
part of
some-
it for the
I
Recreation
can get some
Department.
flexibility on that. I'm the chairman. So I did give
Come
her
on.
some flexibility.
I'm gonna file an open meeting violation, because I got nothing else better to do. Let's go.
I'm sure there's quite a few people at home watching it who'll file against me.
Good Lord.
Come on.
Okay, we'll move on. We're going on the agenda, right?
Yes, go.
We're moving on.
We have one more bullet item, right? The
No,
following
that's-
recommendations on the beach passes. Should we read
We're
that or
gonna
no?
look at that policy.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're all set, Jim. Discuss draft boards, committee, and commission handbook.
Now, we have this wonderful handbook
I like it, I saw
for
it.
everybody that's here,
Beautiful.
especially, boards and commissions, and this hasn't been updated in a long time, and the town clerk,
Wait for you to sit down.
she created it originally, and she's updated it, and it includes everything
This is
from
great.
open meeting law to standards of conduct of public officials, to conflict of interest, all kinds of nice things, how to take minutes and so forth and so on. So I'd ask the board to review it. So if you want to make any changes, we'll make changes and we'll vote it at the next meeting and then
Saw it.
distribute
I
it
love
to
I
everybody.
like it. I've had some
It's very
requests.
good.
Yeah,
I like the points on the minutes of meetings, that they
I
didn't have
love
to be
it.
verbatim, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So I thought it was pretty cool.
cool. I don't blame him. I'd get out of here too if I had a chance.
Yeah, we're in violation, man. He knows this. He left.
Is that why you left?
That's why I left.
Thank you all. We're all set. We got a recreation commission, correct?
I hope so.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Discuss draft boards, committee. Okay, that's all set. Appointments. Brian Tully, 585 West Washington Street, ZBA, regular member, term to expire 6/30/16. He's gonna fill the vacancy of Sean Jonas. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Tully here tonight?
He is not here because he's in the middle of hearings at the ZBA, because he's an alternate, currently an alternate member.
Okay.
So he's up, so I told him if he's, can't make it, then we'll move forward with it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Did you make a motion or no?
There's been a motion?
Motion.
Motion and a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those not voting?
I'm sorry.
5-0. It was a late vote.
I was mowing.
Okay, committee reports, Long Ponce Pond Committee.
The meeting is Thursday at 10 o'clock at Halifax.
10 a.m.?
Town Hall. In the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Indian Head and McQuon Priority Repair Committee is meeting on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Highway Building Committee.
We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night to discuss with the architects some finalization of some figures and some other things as far as moving forward with the project.
Okay. Final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
Meeting Wednesday night at 4 o'clock at the police station.
Can I ask you a question about the Streeter House? Do you have any, does that committee have any problems with us selling the Streeter House before you come to a final conclusion?
There was some talk about holding off until after the water tank was painted.
Oh, the
because-
water tank, yeah,
Yeah,
well, the water tank.
that's why it has been sold,
Because
because
that's why it
the
hasn't been
staging's
sold.
in the
The
lot
staging's
of
in there, okay.
the house.
You interested in bidding on that,
Actually,
Tracy?
I don't think they are using the land, but I think it'd be better off to wait until they get the tank done.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. We have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay. All
You
those
can
in,
second it too, absolutely.
any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.